Hey my watchers, welcome. Today we are gonna see. What if Harry Potter unlocked hidden powers at Triwizard tournament? Harry gazed at the landscape from the back seat of his Uncle Vernon's car as they approached Privet Drive. The images of the final tournament match kept replaying in his mind. He felt those emotions surge through him again like they'd been replayed from the very first moment. Over and over, he berated himself for suggesting Cedric should take the cup. If Cedric had kept it alone, he'd still be alive. If he hadn't said anything, he'd still be alive. Still alive. Alive. From the rearview mirror, Uncle Vernon watched a tear roll down his nephew's cheek. For the first time in his life, he felt genuine concern. After all, he hadn't seen him cry since infancy. No matter how harsh things got, no matter how many words were spoken, no matter how often Dudley hit him, he hadn't seen the boy cry again. That wasn't normal. After all, he always came back from that school happy-sad about having to leave it for summer, but happy about having been there. What had happened to make him feel this way? How's school going? Everything okay? Uncle Vernon asked, sounding a bit uncertain. Harry's reaction made him uneasy, but after all, it was only natural. The boy had shown such surprise at his uncle's concern that he couldn't help staring at him intently, though he still nodded. After a moment, he kept looking at him, but soon turned back to the window. Uncle Vernon noticed once again that he was getting sad. He sighed resignedly. It didn't matter, there was all summer to figure it out, but he still had to talk about it with Petunia. When they reached Privet Drive's fourth house, Aunt Petunia was waiting for them and looked visibly nervous about speaking with her husband. Realizing they didn't want her there, Harry quickly went upstairs to his room, thinking he'd bring his trunk later if they let him in. Something's wrong, Petunia? Uncle Vernon asked. I need to talk to you right now. It's about Harry. Petunia whispered rapidly, as if someone might be listening. That's exactly what I wanted to tell you too. He looked so strange in the car. Petunia seemed so sad. I even saw him crying. I know, he said quickly. How do you know that? Her husband asked, utterly baffled by how she could have known. Take this, read this, he said as he handed him a parchment. Uncle Vernon stared at the parchment as if he were about to stab it, certain it must be from that school. Possibly even the same institution where Harry had been left at the door 14 years ago. He sensed this was going to be an official report detailing the boy's misdeeds during his school year. But seeing his wife's face, he realized it must be something truly significant. He grabbed the document and began reading. As he did so, his eyes widened in shock while his face gradually turned pale. No, can't be true, Uncle Vernon said, his voice barely audible. That letter told us he was dead. Harry defeated him. He couldn't have come back. But it is Vernon, Petunia said. That killer has returned, killed that boy, and is now after Harry. He wants to kill him the same way he killed that guy, my sister and her husband. Now I get why he acted that way in the car. He probably blamed himself for the boy's death, but he wasn't at fault. Vernon, what are we going to do? He might not get along with my sister, but I don't want to see her dead. Harry's my nephew. I can't lose him like I lost my sister. Calm down. According to this, as long as you stay in the house, Voldemort won't be able to harm you, so we'll keep watch over him. Then he used all his willpower and added, and we should accept his gift. You mean you want to treat him well and accept he's a wizard? Auntie Petunia asked in astonishment. See. Uncle Vernon decided to start by lifting his nephew's trunk himself while Petunia warned Dudley. When he reached Harry's room, he found the boy sound asleep. He left the trunk at the foot of the bed, opened the window, and released Hedwig from her cage. Then he went to his nephew and covered him with a blanket. It was late at night when Harry woke up jolted by a nightmare. He instinctively touched the scar, which didn't hurt no. It hadn't since that night Voldemort had returned. Then he noticed something strange. He was wrapped in something, but according to his memory, he'd never done that before. As he looked closer, he noticed the open window and Hedwig's empty cage. He couldn't remember opening the window, so he turned his attention to the trunk. Could it be that Uncle Vernon had done all those things? No, that was impossible. The Dursleys hated him like it was a crime. I can't even imagine anything, Harry said before burying his head under the pillow. There's no way Vernon would ever do anything nice for me, he mumbled before drifting off to sleep. The next morning, Harry woke up late, well past 9:30. Petunia hadn't come to rouse him for breakfast, and Dudley hadn't even made a fuss at the door. He listened intently, probably because his alarm clock was malfunctioning and had rung prematurely. The silence in the upper floor suggested that his uncle had already risen, just like Dudley. If they were up, it meant Petunia Auntie must be up too. Then, why hadn't they woken him up for breakfast? He stumbled into the kitchen in complete disarray, expecting a scolding from everyone. But what he saw took his breath away. Aunt Petunia was cooking breakfast with Dudley's help, while Uncle Vernon was reading the newspaper calmly. The real kicker? None of them even mentioned he'd been late for work. "Good morning," he said, utterly stunned by what he saw. "Ah, good morning, Harry. Did you sleep well?" Auntie Petunia asked. "See. Okay, sit down and have breakfast. Dudley, you should sit down too." "Yes, Mommy," Dudley replied calmly. Harry couldn't believe his eyes. Had they switched his family during that school year or what? Aunt Petunia had been kind to him. Dudley hadn't protested about having to help his mother, and Uncle Vernon hadn't said anything hurtful. But what was going on there? Could it be that Sirius had done something to them? Visit? No, if that were the case, it wouldn't be kindness, it'd be fear. So, what was going on? The rest of the day followed the same pattern. The Dursleys were kind to Harry, and what was most peculiar was their genuine concern for him, their genuine interest in his belongings. When his uncle burst into the room around noon and caught him doing summer homework, it nearly gave Harry a heart attack. That was scary enough, but what nearly killed him was when he didn't get the usual drama about his father and our good old Mr. X. "Harry, what are you doing?" Uncle Vernon asked as he entered his room. The homework, Mr. Vernon," Harry exclaimed in horror at being caught red-handed. "Ah, you're already doing your homework? On your first day off? Good grief. What a workaholic. No, aren't you angry?" Harry asked, teetering on the edge of collapse. "No." "Should I get angry?" he replied as if it were a question. "And what's the subject?" Of enchantments." "Well, then I'll leave you alone to focus on your task," his uncle replied. Harry watched in stunned silence as his uncle walked away with a smile. He almost reached for Ron's pen to ask about what was happening, but instantly dismissed the idea. This must be just a day or two of it. He couldn't write about something that wouldn't last. But 3 days later, the situation persisted. So he decided to write to Ron instead, grabbed a quill and parchment, and began his letter. "Hello, Ron. How's summer getting off to a good start? Everything okay? I bet your dad's been swamped with Voldemort's mess. Did Fudge spill the beans about what really happened? Or did he just keep everything under wraps like he planned? Hope he's come to his senses and told the truth. I'm doing great, to be honest, way better than I thought. I don't know what's going on, but ever since I arrived, everyone has been super kind to me. Dudley has invited me to play his video game console countless times, and my uncles have completely changed. They're not just worried about me, they're actually interested in school stuff too. It's totally weird. I thought it'd only last a few days. But this situation doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon. This morning when I woke up, I found brand new clothes. After the meal, Dudley's old clothes had vanished. Everything was brand new and perfectly sized for me. I'm really not sure what's going on. Do you think they might be under some kind of spell?" Harry, after finishing the letter, he reviewed it and nodded in satisfaction. He approached Hedwig's cage, where she remained motionless with her legs stretched out, waiting for the letter to be tied around her neck. "Can you deliver this letter to Ron?" "Okay." Hedwig playfully tickled him with her finger and flew out the window. Harry watched her disappear into the distance, hoping she wouldn't take long to return. Sure enough, that very night as he was about to go to bed, Hedwig came back with Ron's reply. "Hola, Harry. So far the vacation is going well, though Fred and George seem more active than usual. Their room is buzzing with activity, there are more explosions than last year, and they seem to be inventing even more stuff. Though my mom doesn't scold them as much as before, I think she's not as eager as she used to be about them joining the ministry. By the way, my dad is taking on a bunch of extra work with all that fuss about warning those who aren't as clueless as fudge about the return of who knows you. He still hasn't shed a single piece of clothing. But hey, are you saying the Muggles have changed how they treat you? Seriously? Oh my God. That's actually better for you, right? I'm genuinely glad about this change, though it feels odd that it happened so suddenly. I asked Bill if there was some spell to alter their behavior without making it an unforgivable curse, but he said no. So I don't know what caused this shift. I'll write to Hermione to see if she knows anything, and then I'll ask my dad too. Take care and stay safe.
Rendezvous.
Well, it didn't seem like the spell that changed the Dursleys was the real deal, so he just had to make the most of this lucky streak. He gave Hedwig some water and food, then went to bed, not knowing if things would return to normal the next day. When he awoke, it was still pitch dark. He might have only been asleep for a couple hours, and what jolted him awake was the sharp pain in his scar and a slight jolt, all while someone kept calling out to him, "Harry! Harry! Wake up! Harry, what's wrong with you?" It was Aunt Petunia's voice. He opened his eyes but could barely make out the faint outlines of Aunt Petunia, Uncle Vernon, and Dudley. In a flustered attempt, he searched for his glasses on the nightstand. Someone had slipped them away. By the way they were held in his hands, he deduced it must have been Dudley. He put them back on, but it didn't #039 make much difference either. The pain from the scar left him with blurred vision and barely allowed him to breathe. He stumbled to his feet and began making his way toward the window. He had only felt that intense pain once before, 2 weeks ago when he witnessed Lord Voldemort #039's return. Harry, what #039's going on? Suddenly we hear you screaming, and when we get in there we find you #039. Practically writhing in pain. Uncle Vernon said. Harry didn't #039 respond. He had already reached the window, staring intently at something outside the house. When the Dursleys looked, they saw a man in a hooded cloak tall and, judging by what they could make out, holding a wand. Quote, "Who is that man?" Quote, Aunt Petunia asked, her fear evident as she knew the answer was coming. Quote, "Voldemort." Quote, Harry whispered. As they could see, Voldemort approached the house. His intention to enter and kill the boy was as clear as water. But just as he was about to reach the garden gate, a massive shield of color, azul, manifested throughout the house. Quote, "You wouldn't #039 really think this would stop me, would you, Dumbledore?" Quote, Voldemort said to himself, his voice barely audible. Quote, "Now that I #039 regained my power, I can destroy it with ease." Quote, Voldemort raised his wand and began slowly inserting it into the shield. As he shattered the shield with his hand, sparks flew. When his hand touched the shield, it disintegrated into a burst of blue lights and flickering sparks. As Voldemort was about to enter, something caught his eye, a magnificent swan's-eyed bird with crimson and orange feathers that gave an eerie fire-like glow. To Harry #039's surprise, the bird #039's melodious song began to ease his scar pain and improve his breathing. It was Fox. "Fox, what are you doing here?" Harry asked as the bird perched on his shoulder, rubbing against him affectionately. "Is Dumbledore coming along?" As he was answering Harry #039's question, the old wizard suddenly appeared out of nowhere, accompanied by Sirius Black, Remus Lupin, Arthur, Bill, and Charlie Weasley. A wizard and a witch who knew nothing of each other formed a tight defense against the house together with the 8 others. Quote, "I should have known." Quote, Voldemort muttered to himself. Quote, "The shield was just a signal to alert the house that an attack was coming, allowing us to set up a closed defense with that old man at the head." Quote, Then he looked up at Harry and the Dursleys, adding with a wicked grin, quote, "You might escape tonight, but next time you #039, I'll be dead." Quote, With that, he let out a soft quote, puff quote, and vanished. All those who had formed the defense breathed a sigh of relief, turned to Harry with smiles, and then entered the house. Within 2 minutes, Harry followed the Dursleys down to the living room where the 8 were already gathered, some curious about all the Muggle things, especially Arthur Weasley, who remained quiet out of the gravity of the situation, and his children #039. Warnings rather than taking charge of the house. Others worried. When Harry entered the room and spotted Sirius, he rushed over to greet him. He was immediately embraced by his godfather, with a few friendly pats from Remus, Mr. Weasley, Bill, and Charlie. Sirius, I #039. Am so happy to see you, Harry said, still hugging Sirius tightly. Harry, are you okay? Did something happen to you? I asked Sirius, worried. No. Calm down. I #039. Am fine. Quote. You mean? Quote. He asked, his gaze fixed on the now scarred love mark with a worried expression. Quote. And this? Quote. He added as he gently brushed it aside. Exactly.
Honestly, I cancelletto 039, M fine Sirius.
This is normal, right? Don #039. Do you agree, Professor Dumbledore? Yes, Sirius, that #039. Normal, quote. Dumbledore said. From what Harry could see, he looked far more worried than ever before. Everyone settled into the living room sofas as Aunt Petunia offered to brew tea with great kindness, a gesture that left them all quite surprised. Honestly, their stern expressions made one's heart skip a beat. When Aunt Petunia returned with cups for everyone, Dumbledore locked eyes with Harry. I think you realize how serious this is, Harry, he said gravely. Voldemort not only knows where you live, but he effortlessly shattered the shield I installed years ago on this house. You're no longer safe here. I know. You'll know then you can't stay much longer, Harry nodded. Flitwick, Severus, and I are preparing something that'll take you to a safe place. No matter how hard Voldemort tries, he'll never get there. Where can I go to avoid Voldemort finding me? Harry asked in surprise. You'll know soon enough, Sirius grinned. And why are you so happy? Harry exclaimed in surprise. If the Ministry catches you, you'll be in serious trouble. You'll know, said Remus. Now the crucial thing is to be as safe as possible. Grab your things and we're leaving. Where? Home. Mr. Weasley said, you'll be coming with us. Yes, by now Mom will have Ron's room ready. Bill said, yeah, and the others will be waiting for you by now, right? Charlie added with a smile. And how am I supposed to get to your place? With flu powder or with a transporter? Neither one nor the other, Dumbledore said. Both options are easily detectable, so you'll take the Muggle method by car. Sirius, Remus, and you'll take a taxi. Taxi? He exclaimed in surprise. Exacto. But what if someone recognizes Sirius? Harry was startled. Harry, I doubt anyone will recognize me in my animal form. That's why you shouldn't worry. Ah well. Then he noticed the mage and the witch he didn't know. So what's your story? Well, Harry, he's Mundungus Fletcher, the witch said with complete calmness. And well, I think you should actually recognize me. It's the first time I've seen her. What do you mean? The woman said with a wry smile. Looks like if you don't see me with my white hair, a Muggle dress, and a bunch of the cats around me can't recognize me. White hair, a Muggle's outfit, and a bunch of cats. Harry muttered. White hair and a bunch of cats. That can't be true. You're the Fig type. Bingo! The woman exclaimed. I'm Arabella Fig, call me Arabella. But, Harry took a good look at her. She must be about Sirius' age. Her hair was a deep golden color, and there wasn't a single wrinkle on it. But, I believe you've heard of the aging potion, haven't you, Harry? Dumbledore said with a smile. If I recall correctly from the beginning of the school year, Mr. Fry and George Weasley, the Weasley family members in the classroom here, attempted to bypass my age limit using an aging potion. When he crossed the line, a long white beard sprouted out of him. Harry said, Yes, I remember. Does that mean you? It always worked like a charm for me, Arabella said. Now that the introductions are over, start packing your things. Yes, of course. Harry rushed into his room and started packing his things as fast as he could. His streak of good fortune with the Dursleys had been short-lived. Now that they were treating him like a saint, he needed to escape to some unknown place where Voldemort wouldn't find him. When he came down again, he found his uncle and aunt dressed and ready to go out. It seemed they'd decided to take him with them instead of taking a taxi. Though Dudley didn't seem to share their decision clearly, still remembering the long-tongued caramel Fred and George had given him last year. They grabbed Harry's trunk and stuffed it into the trunk, then got into the car themselves under the guidance of Charlie Weasley, who was with them. They set off toward the Hollow. When they arrived at the cottage, it was almost daylight. They had spent nearly the entire night traveling there. Harry hadn't even gotten out of the car when he found himself in Mrs. Weasley's arms. "Harry! Oh, Harry! We were so worried about you," Mrs. Weasley said. "When Arthur sensed the danger, I thought I was going crazy. Are you okay, honey?" "I'm fine, Mrs. Weasley. Thank you so much for your concern," Harry said, still nestled in her arms. "Harry!" Two voices exclaimed simultaneously. When Harry turned to look in the direction of the voices, he found Ron and Hermione both looking worried. He quickly noticed he was no longer in the Weasley family's arms but in Hermione's, who was holding him tightly. The red-haired girl stared down at him, as if something was missing from his presence. Ron, don't look at me like that or I'll be gone," Harry said. "I'm glad to see you're doing well," said the red-haired man, almost reaching out to hug him. "Don't scare us like that again." "Of course," as if Harry wanted who knows to kill him. Ginny snorted, stepping into the doorway before them. When Mrs. Dursley caught sight of the red-haired girl, she let out a faint gasp of surprise that oddly sounded like Lily. This subtle reaction made the Weasley family realize they were in the wrong place. "Ah, Dursleys, did you come with Harry here?" Mrs. Weasley asked in surprise. "What kind of kindness? Let me introduce myself. I'm Molly Weasley, and these are my children. Bill and Charlie already know them as well as my husband. The one over there is Percy, the twins are Fred and George, this one here is Ron, and she's my daughter Ginny. Petunia Dursley, and this is my husband Vernon." The twins started searching everywhere with the same mischievous grin on their faces. Harry, who already knew them, immediately recognized their target and purpose. Soon, he noticed their smiles fading away, leading him to assume they had given up. Then Aunt Petunia approached him. "Okay, Harry, we're leaving now. You know we left Dudley all alone. Write to us. Okay?" After that, he said goodbye to the Weasley family, Sirius, and Remus before heading back to Privet Drive. "Well, they've really changed, don't they?" Ron said, looking quite surprised. "Let's go inside before anyone spots Harry here and this place turns into a safe zone," Mrs. Weasley said. "Ron, why don't you take Harry's trunk to your room with your brothers?" "I can handle this myself, don't worry, Mrs. Weasley," Harry said. "No problem, Harry. We'll upload it ourselves," said one of the twins. "Come on, Harry. You haven't had breakfast yet, right? You must be starving. Come on, I'll make you breakfast. You Tutu, Lupin, and Black." They entered the house, and Mrs. Weasley began preparing breakfast for everyone. In fact, no one had eaten anything since the previous night. After finishing, she served generous portions to Harry, Sirius, and Remus, insisting they should eat well. Harry barely managed to ask any questions during this meal. "Remus, what exactly happened last night?" he asked, dropping a small slip of tongue that caught everyone off guard. "Well," he began, "let's see. When Voldemort attacked, he activated a defensive shield, right? See. Well, the shield was actually designed to fend off Morcephagos, not Lord Voldemort. So if he attacked sooner or later, as we saw he did sooner, it would break. That's why the shield also served as a warning system. If any dark wizard, other than Voldemort or Morcephagos, tried to enter the house, the shield would react by sending an alarm signal to certain individuals. Originally we were Arabella, Mundungus, Dumbledore, and me, but after what happened at the tournament, Sirius begged to join the group, and the Weasley family also requested to join, growing to their current size as seen last night. Satisfied? Almost. Where will I be sent? Ah, that. Mysteriously, everyone in the kitchen except Harry and Ron exchanged knowing smiles. "You'll know when the time comes," Sirius replied. "You told me that last night, didn't you?" Harry protested. "Then wait until the moment comes." The days at the Madrigera proved comfortable and peaceful. As Ron had mentioned, the twins were noticeably more energetic than usual. It seemed the 1,000 galleons had been working like a charm for them. They were using them to purchase materials for inventing new pranks. The twins had kept their promise. They'd bought Ron a brand new crimson ceremonial robe. Unlike the previous year, Percy didn't seem as obsessed with his job. Though he'd taken on more responsibilities since Mr. Crouch's death, Voldemort's return had made him rethink his priorities and realize some things were more important than work. His strong position in the International Department of Magic also gave him valuable connections abroad to form an alliance against Voldemort. Bill and Charlie seemed to have taken a vacation, planning to spend the rest of summer with their family. Just like last year, they proved to be wonderful people who were almost as witty as Fred and George. They even shared some jokes with Harry that had him laughing so hard he couldn't stop. Ginny remained as shy as ever, though she seemed determined to overcome her shyness step by step. She was often seen chatting cheerfully with Harry and Sirius, who had decided to stay and make sure nothing happened to her. Meanwhile, Remus kept moving between places, yet always found time to drop by whenever he wanted. So for Harry, those days were so delightful that he could almost forget Voldemort was chasing him and wouldn't stop until he achieved his goal. Alongside Ron and Hermione, they spent the days without even realizing it, and before they knew it, July 31st arrived, Harry's 15th birthday. Throughout the day, Ron and Hermione kept Harry quite busy, as Mrs. Weasley had specifically requested them to do so. "Hey Harry, want to play a game of chess?" Ron asked. "Well, why not?" He smiled. "Maybe this time I'll win you over." "That's not even a dream," Ron said with confidence. By the time they realized it was dinner time, Ginny had already invited them down to the garden. When they arrived, Harry noticed Ron and Hermione exchanging knowing glances. As he stepped outside, he saw tables piled high with food, the garden beautifully decorated, and the entire Weasley family along with Remus, Sirius, and Dumbledore regared around the table. "Surprise!" they all shouted together. "Happy birthday, Harry!" Harry stayed rooted to the spot, eyes wide open and mouth gaping like a movie character. Ron found his friend's reaction hilarious and nudged him with a grin, leading him to where everyone else was waiting in anticipation. "Wishing you all the best, Harry dear," Mrs. Weasley said with a smile. "Well, I didn't expect that," Harry said in surprise. "Well, actually, that's exactly what it was about. George said that you wouldn't expect it." "Well, that wouldn't be a surprise, right?" Fred added. "Well, thanks," Harry said. "Don't give them to us," Bill said. "Give them to Ron, who gave us the idea. We're just carrying it out." That was undoubtedly the best birthday Harry had ever had. Mrs. Weasley whipped up a massive chocolate cake with 15 candles, while Fred and George pulled off countless pranks that were so hilarious they left everyone speechless. All of them, except the two that hit Dumbledore, ended up with Percy, who practically seemed to be using the summoning spell. As dusk began to fall, a flurry of gifts from all the guests appeared, and everyone gathered around Harry to open them. The first was from the Weasley Familia simple gift that Harry adored, featuring a magical photo of every Weasley member cheerfully greeting him. Next came Bill's present, a miniature pyramid with a cursed little demon inside. Charlie's gift was a Regbly puppy, a small dragon-like creature that grew into a cat-sized adult. While far less dangerous than the actual dragon, it proved nearly as loyal and good as a dog. This unique little companion was truly both extraordinary and precious. I have a friend who owns a Regbly that recently had puppies. I told him I wanted to get you one, and well, you see what happened," Charlie said with a smile. "Ostras, thanks a bunch, Charlie. You know what? I bet Hagrid would love one of those." "Well, I think it should be as big as a house and way more wilder," Ron said. After Regbly, Percy brought a muggle book he'd found while wandering London. Later, Sirius and Remus gave him their own gift, a large photo album documenting the school days of the Weasleys, though none showed Peter something he couldn't bear to see. Finally, Hermione handed him a small box. "Toma, Harry, this is our gift," Hermione said. "You're?" he asked, looking confused. "Yeah, Hermione and I bought it together," Ron said. "We got it between us." "Are you two together?" He grinned slyly. "The two of you?" "Yeah. We decided to buy the gift together," Hermione said, looking flustered. "Something that would be beyond just the two of us." Harry raised an amused eyebrow as he watched both of them blush furiously at his friend's veiled suggestion. Then he noticed the twins had vanished without a trace. "And the twins?" she asked, surprised. Here! Two voices exclaimed. It turned out that when the gifts started being handed out, they rushed into the house to grab theirs. But given their sly glances, you could tell this wasn't going to end well. Open the gift, Harry, Hermione said. Harry grabbed the package and started unwrapping it, only to discover a velvet pouch inside. When he opened it, he found a medal secured by a long gold chain, featuring a photo of the three of them from the previous year right after their Quidditch World Cup trip. The inside of the lid had a message that read, from your friends, Ron and Hermione. Wow! Thank you so much for this gorgeous thing, he exclaimed as he put it on. Nothing at all, Ron and Hermione said to each other. It's meant to keep you in the loop no matter where you are. Hermione added.
Muchas gracias.
Stop being so sentimental and open our gift, said the twins. Harry dropped the medal and grabbed a massive package that immediately caught everyone's eye. When he removed the wrapping and opened the box, he was greeted with a whole bunch of hilarious jokes of all kinds. Come on, Harry exclaimed as he saw them. Here are our latest creations, Fred said with a grin as George darted around the table, dodging his mother's kitchen cart that kept chasing him for gifting Harry those items. We were thinking of selling them to Zonkos, but the first batch is exclusively yours. Ostriches, thank you so much. I can't wait to see what kind of jokes I'll pull on. Well, Harry said, glancing sideways at Dumbledore. Oh, don't worry about me. I'm sure you'll have a blast next term, and those jokes will work like a charm for you, Dumbledore said with a grin. As Harry began to close the box, George, who had managed to escape from his mother's deadly roller, seemed horrified by the situation and made sure to point it out to Harry. What the hell are you doing? Can't you just close the package yet? He shouted, drawing Fred's attention as the boy was now being chased by his mother. You haven't seen the whole story yet. True, the best is missing, Fred confirmed. Harry began searching through a sea of jokes. After nearly 5 minutes, he discovered a large yet narrow box with vibrant green inside, the one he'd been enchanted to make infinitely deeper than it appeared. When he opened it, 3 simple medallions appeared, each bearing a name. The first bore the cursive letter Harry in its inscription, while the second similarly featured the same name in. The third line featured the cursive Sirius, and the third line contained Ron, with each section inside containing the names of the other 2. Wait, this? He exclaimed in surprise. It's our greatest invention, Fred said with great pride. Yes, and it has nothing to do with jokes, George added quickly, glancing sideways at his mother. What's that? He asked, curious to know what it could be if it wasn't a joke. What a gem, George exclaimed. We came up with this idea 2 summers ago when Ron tried to call you on the phone, that muggle. Yes, at that moment we thought it would be really interesting if the wizards had something similar, but it just stayed as a thought. But at the start of summer, we had a compassionate soul who felt sorry for us and decided to invest in our inventions, without any strings attached, and without us having to give them a single refund. The mother of the twins looked like she wanted to kill whoever had given that money. When they attacked Harry's house and we learned that Professor Dumbledore was going to send him to a safe place where the Nameless One couldn't find him, we thought that from the money that kind-hearted soul had invested, we could do something useful for Harry. Then we recall that thought from 2 years ago, and here it is, Fred said with satisfaction. It's a pocket communicator, fast and efficient. We've made 3 for Harry, another for Mr. Black, and 1 for Ron. All 3 are connected, so when anyone wants to talk to the other 2, they just need to tap their name. The communicator of the person they want to talk to will respond. This device displays the subject's image and allows users to communicate with complete peace of mind. It works anywhere and in any situation. It's proven and trusted. You made this up yourself, didn't you? Mrs. Weasley exclaimed in astonishment. George said, we originally thought these could also be used to combat the Nameless. They might prove very useful for communication during attacks. Dumbledore seemed particularly intrigued by the communicator, eyeing him curiously. Meanwhile, Mrs. Weasley appeared as if she'd received the best news of her life. Her expression shifted from wanting to stamp the roller against her 2 children's heads to passionately hugging and kissing them. After that, Dumbledore approached Harry, his face visibly torn between sadness and excitement. Harry, I bet you won't like my gift. My present is your security. What does that mean? Harry, you're leaving tomorrow. Author's notes? Hey everyone. Hope you're enjoying the story. Yes, I know it's pretty unrealistic that the Dursleys treat Harry well. Looking forward to your reviews with enthusiasm. Also, feel free to email may_chan1@yahoo.es if you'd like to share any thoughts. Can't wait to see all your comments. What will happen in the next chapter? Where will Harry end up? And why does everyone seem to be acting like something big is about to happen? All these mysteries will be revealed in the upcoming episode. The Journey and the Arrival. See you soon, Curry. What? Exclaimed. Tomorrow? But it's still too early. No? I mean, Voldemort never tried to kill me or anything like that. Harry, it's not too early. And it's not true that Voldemort hasn't tried to kill you since last time. But here's the thing. He just doesn't know where you are. Even if you're certain you'll stay here, he'll find you before long and put the Weasley family in grave danger. Professor Dumbledore, I don't think he needs to be so harsh on him. Mrs. Weasley began. I get it, Harry said. All right then. If I have to leave, I'll do it off. I still don't know where. I promise you'll love it, Dumbledore assured him. How can you be so sure? He asked. Because we're sending you back 25 years in the past, Dumbledore said calmly. What? Harry shouted as he suddenly stood up. You can't be serious, are you? If I'm being serious, Harry, Dumbledore said calmly. Think about it objectively. Voldemort wants you dead because he knows you're a worthy opponent. It's also personal. He made you his shadow for nearly 14 years. But the Voldemort from 25 years ago doesn't know any of this. Right now, he's just starting to gain power and more power. He won't bother with a 15-year-old boy, but then Harry could change the story, Ron said.
No.
Hermione declared. Harry's only going to protect himself from Voldemort, so he can't change anything. Did you know that? Exclaimed both boys. Of course, Hermione said calmly. We all knew that. The only ones who didn't know were you two. Why didn't you tell me this before? Ron protested. Easy, you'd have told Harry that, and it was supposed to be a surprise. I wouldn't have said that. Of course you can. You can't fool Harry, even if it's just for his own good or to surprise him. Ron and Hermione started their usual bickering again, and Harry watched them and thought he'd missed those fights. He'd grown so used to them after all, having been the referee in those squabbles himself. Harry, come on, you should just go to bed, Mrs. Weasley said. Yeah, but first, how about you name the Redgley? Charlie said. Ah, yes. Harry said, deep in thought. What do you think about Sale? Your pet, Mr. Weasley said. You decide. But I think he's into it, Charlie said. You know what, Sale? The tiny reptile spread its wings and attempted to fly onto its owner's shoulder. But it didn't quite make it. After all, it was barely 2 weeks old. And he playfully brushed his head against Harry's. Looks like it does, Hermione said. But I don't think Hedwig's too happy about that, she added, watching the owl flap its beak angrily. Don't get mad, Hedwig, Harry said as he approached the owl. I don't think you'll replace me with Sale. Hedwig looked at Harry with disbelief and skepticism. But at that moment the little mini-dragon dropped beside the owl and began rubbing against it affectionately. Harry was about to shoo it away quickly under Hedwig's glare, but to everyone's surprise, the owl spread its wings and wrapped them around Sale, embracing him without a doubt. Well, I think, Harry, you won't have to worry about that, Charlie said while observing the owl's behavior. If I'm not mistaken, Hedwig just adopted Sale. Harry, Ron, and Hermione went to bed, knowing what awaited them the next day. Meanwhile, Dumbledore stayed with the older Weasley Sirius and Remusto finalized details for Harry's upcoming journey. He had written an extensive letter to the then Potter family. As dawn approached, Professor Flitwick and Professor Snape joined the gathering. At 8 in the morning, Mrs. Weasley climbed into Ron's room where Harry, Ron, and the twins were sleeping. She made her way to wake up the first one so he could start getting ready, then proceed to rouse the other sleeping members of the family. Pardon, Sale, I need to wake Harry up, he said as the little Redgley stepped in front of Mrs. Weasley to prevent him from waking Harry. I have to wake him now because if I don't, it's getting late, he said, picking up the puppy and shoving it away. Harry, man, that's the time to get up. Well, it's still early morning, he said as he turned around. Mom, you can't wake him up this way, Ron said, looking amused like the twins, as he tried to rouse him since Sale had already woken them up.
No?
Then how? He asked, surprised. That's it. The three Weasley brothers said simultaneously as they grabbed their pillows and slapped Harry's face several times. Hey, what's going on? Harry exclaimed, giving a wide-eyed look. Oh, nothing specific. Fred smiled. It's just time for you to get up, George added. You gotta kick that habit of waking up like a doormat. Harry said, dozing off. One day you'll scare me to death. After that, the four went down for breakfast. When they saw Professor Snape sitting at the kitchen table talking to Professor Dumbledore, Sirius and Remus almost had a heart attack. 2 minutes later, the girls came down too, reacting just like the boys. Okay, Harry, Dumbledore began. It's time. Are you all set? Yeah, he said, looking slightly dejected at the thought of leaving. Okay. Take this letter and give it to your grandfather, Robert Potter, he said, extending a brown envelope. Let me break it down for you here. Well, I'll take care of it while I pick her up. Yeah, just one more thing, he said with a smile. Since I didn't give you a proper birthday present yesterday, take this. Harry took a small box from Dumbledore's hand. When he opened it, he discovered a necklace with a golden lightning-shaped plaque engraved in cursive script, bearing the name Sale. I thought your Reggie would be a good fit. Thank you, Professor, Harry said as he placed it on Sale's head. Oh yes, I was just saying I'd forgotten something, Dumbledore added. Take this, it's for my past self. It almost matches the one I wrote for your grandfather. After Harry had also delivered the letter to Dumbledore, Professor Flitwick approached him and handed over a small ring that would serve as a special transponder. When Harry put it on his left pinky finger, he felt that familiar sensation of his feet lifting off the ground and spinning endlessly. But this time, he didn't feel dizzy or like screaming, almost felt like he was taking a leisurely stroll. When he opened his eyes, he found himself before a magnificent 3-story house with a beautiful garden. He looked around and saw that all his belongings had arrived with him. Just as he was about to enter, a hand on his shoulder made him stumble. James Potter, can you tell me what you did to Mrs. Hawkins this time? A woman's voice demanded. When Harry turned around, he saw a woman with long brown curly hair and sapphire blue eyes. As Harry opened his mouth, he felt her story was the most absurd of, although it was true. For a moment, the woman said, You're not my son. Who are you? Well, my name is Harry. I brought a letter for your husband, he said while showing the letter to him. Let me see it, he said as he picked it up. It's from Albus Dumbledore. All right, Harry, go ahead. In a minute you can talk to my husband. The woman led her into the house with gentle care. With a wave of her wand, all of Harry's luggage followed them, hovering just inches away as she gazed at everything with keen curiosity. After stashing Harry's belongings inside, she guided him to a room where a man with jet-black, tousled hair was engrossed in reading the prophet. Robert, there's a boy here who's bringing you a letter from Dumbledore, said the woman. Thanks, July, the man said, lifting his eyes from the newspaper to lock eyes with Harry. James, what do you want now? Excuse me. My name is Harry, not James. I've got a letter from Professor Dumbledore for you.
Santo Celeste.
You're almost like my son, James, and I'd say you're the same age. How old are you? Mr. Potter asked, his eyes fixed on Harry as he stepped closer. I turned 15 yesterday. Congratulations, kid. Physically similar and the same age. If they told me that, I wouldn't have believed it. You say you brought me a letter from Dumbledore? Let me see it. Harry handed over the letter Dumbledore had delivered to him years ago. Following Mrs. Potter's instructions, he settled into a nearby sofa. Meanwhile, Mr. Potter opened the letter and began reading it aloud. Silently, as he read on, his surprise grew more intense. He kept darting quick glances at Harry before resuming the text. When he finally finished, he stood up and gave Harry a strong hug. His wife, who had been reading the letter with curious eyes, watched as he embraced him. My God, she exclaimed as she finished reading. Then, like her husband, she gave Harry a tight hug. You really do look just like our James. You're his son. Our grandchild. As she spoke, she caressed and kissed him tenderly. The woman's overwhelming affection made Harry feel slightly uneasy after all. Only Mrs. Weasley had ever shown such genuine warmth before. But what brings you here is a very serious matter. According to Dumbledore's letter, you are Lord Voldemort's primary target. Mr. Potter said with grave seriousness. Here you're just beginning to gain power, but in your time, you appear to be someone truly dangerous and extremely, extremely powerful. Yes, Harry said gravely. Voldemort is truly immensely powerful. People are so terrified that they dare not even mention his name, often resorting to phrases like who knows or the nameless one. Very few ever call him by his real name. You've done it, Mr. Potter, Mrs. Potter said. I'm one of the few, Harry said, shrugging his shoulders. After 14 years behind me, it's only natural I call him by his name. He added as if this were common knowledge. That's true, the woman said, gently lifting Harry's bangs to reveal the scar that had grazed his cheek. Well, I won't leave my grandson to the mercy of that monster, Mr. Potter declared. You'll stay here and go to Hogwarts with your father. There's no need to say he's my father. It would be better if he didn't find out I'm his son. Well, then you'll go to Hogwarts with him. We'll tell him your cousins that your father is my brother, and that for health reasons you'll be staying with us for a while. So don't mention anything about yourself. Of course, Uncle Robert, Harry said with a smile. Mr. Potter smiled, and Mrs. Potter embraced him again. She then gestured for him to follow her and led him upstairs to the 3rd floor where 2 rooms were located, starting by helping him settle into the room. He placed Hedwig's cage near the window and, upon spotting Sale, gently laid him down on Harry's double-sized bed. He then helped her organize clothes and belongings. However, a commotion in the neighboring room caught their attention. Wait a minute, Harry, Mrs. Potter said as she stepped out of the room. James Potter, you finally show up. Can you tell me what you did to Mrs. Hawkins? She came here this morning just to complain about you again. Me? Nothing, Mommy, a voice resembling Harry's said. You're not lying to me. You and Sirius must have pulled some serious pranks on him, Mrs. Potter said. What a bad example. And it's happening right today. What's going on today? He asked, looking innocent. Your cousin was coming today, Mrs. Potter said, her voice tired as if she'd repeated it over 50 times. I've told you this a million times. But obviously you never listen. Well, you see, Excuse me. Excuses, Mrs. Potter snapped angrily. Get down here, and don't let me catch you up to your old tricks again. I'll be the one to go down now. After that, he returned to Harry's room and closed the door, then smiled as he continued arranging things. Harry remained confused. How could his grandmother have told her father she'd warned him about his arrival when they had learned of it the same day? As if reading his mind, she smiled. Don't worry. James never pays attention to anything we say. We can tell him something and ask about it later, but he'll forget we ever mentioned it because he's so focused on us. He sighed. That's why he can't say anything now. Can't guarantee we never told him. He laughed. Now, how about we go downstairs and introduce you to James? I'm sure you'd be dying to see what this place looks like. You can't be sure, Harry said, his voice tinged with sadness. I know how hard it must have been leaving your parents and friends behind, Mrs. Potter said. Just as I understand how your parents must feel. If I had to send James away at any other time, even just to save his life, it would really break me. Harry stared at her in disbelief. For a moment, when he first saw the scar, he thought they already knew his parents had died during his time. Worse still, it seemed Dumbledore had explained the events 14 years ago to them, not even mentioning how James and Lily Potter would die protecting him, which was exactly what saved him from Voldemort. When they came downstairs, they heard Robert Potter scolding his son for playing some dirty tricks on a neighbor, who, fortunately, was a witch, and having to deal with more complaints about him. I just can't wrap my head around why you're doing this. It's like back in school when I got so many complaints about your behavior that I can't figure out why you, Sirius, and the rest of your friends weren't kicked out. How do you even call yourselves? Oh, right, the Wanderers. You guys, the school's terror. I don't even know how he's still standing here. Robert, darling, Mrs. Potter said, trying to draw her husband and son's attention. Both turned toward them. As Mr. Potter smiled, James had turned pale, his mouth agape and eyes wide open like a blank slate. His mother laughed at the reaction, for they looked so similar. She'd even been confused by them at first.
James, son.
Let me introduce you to your cousin Harry, Mrs. Potter said. Harry, he's our son, James. Hello, my name is Harry Potter. Harry said, stretching out his hand. James Potter, delighted, he said, gripping his hand tightly. Harry only needed 5 minutes to become very close to his father, just as everyone had told him they were practically identical not just in appearance, but also in personality. The truth was, he didn't ask many questions about how he had a cousin of. He didn't know what he was confirming Potter's claim about never hearing anything, nor did he give much thought to why Harry was there, though Harry guessed it might be because his parents had warned him in a hushed voice. Harry, will you be going to Hogwarts with me this year? James asked him in his room. Yeah, this course is a minimum requirement, he replied. Maybe more. You gotta be in Gryffindor with me and my buddies, he exclaimed cheerfully. You should see us. We outdo Slytherin's guys with every prank we pull. Tell me about your friends. What are they like? Well, they're amazing. This is Sirius Black, my best friend. He's just as mischievous as I am and is an excellent Quidditch player. We've known each other since we were kids. Then there's Remus Lupin's also my best friend and equally playful. Though not as skilled at the game, he prefers studying but is always there when needed. Then there's Peter Pettigrew. Harry made a slight expression of disgust. He's not good at Quidditch and isn't very good with studies either, Harry said. But he's always there when you need him and always ready to help if it comes to dealing with Slytherins. Together we form the Marauders. And then there's Lily. Is it Lily? Harry smiled. Lily Evans. She's my girlfriend, James said, his voice tinged with a slight blush, eliciting a smile from Harry. Tell me about her, he asked. What's she like? Unique? Well organized? Excellent? Generous? Sweet? Ugly? Yes, absolutely stunning. Her hair cascades down like a waterfall of fiery curls. Her porcelain skin glows with natural radiance. And she has those mesmerizing eyes, large and deep green as emeralds. And that smile. What a smile! Can lift anyone's spirits instantly. I want to meet her, Harry said in a low voice. You'll love it, you'll see, James declared. Tell me about your friends. Claro? My 2 best friends are. A noise at the door caught their attention. Thinking it might be his mother's cat Skye, James got up to open it, but was in for a surprise when he found not a cat, but a greenish-gray Regbly puppy. Before he could even take a good look, the creature darted past like a flash and landed on Harry's lap. What's up? Missed me? Harry said, scratching his little pet's chin as the creature flapped its wings in delight. You've got a Regbly, exclaimed James. Wow, I'd only seen one in the Magical Creatures Care book. They're super rare and valuable. I know. How do you even have one? One of my best friend's brothers gave it to me for my birthday, Harry said with a smile. But don't believe me, I've had this for ages. They just gifted it to me yesterday. It's gorgeous, James exclaimed as he examined the gift up close. That family must love you so much they'd go out of their way to give you such a present. Yes, they're like my second family, he said with a smile, recalling the Weathers. I'll take forever to see them again. Maybe I won't get to see them at all, he added, his thoughts drifting to Lord Voldemort. Come on, don't be so pessimistic. You'll see how it goes. Let's talk about your friends. You said there are 2 of them. Yes, there are 2 of them. A boy and a girl. His name is Ron, tall with fiery red hair. He's a dependable buddy who can handle almost anything. Always ready to embark on adventures or teach a lesson to those who deserve it. As the 6th in a family of 7 siblings, he constantly feels the pressure to outshine his peers, since every one of them has earned top honors at school. Bill, the older student, was the class monitor. Charlie led the Quidditch team. Percy also served as a monitor. The twins Fred and George, though notoriously mischievous, consistently scored top marks and were universally popular. Meanwhile, their younger sister Ginny topped her grade. Well, it looks like he's setting the bar way too high, but he's not to be outdone either. He's the school's top chess player, and there hasn't been anyone better in years. He even outperformed the deputy director in a major competition. Moreover, he was awarded the Special Service Award to the school, an honor given to only 3 individuals who had told him about it. Well, then he's outdone his brothers. James exclaimed in astonishment. And what about her? Her name is Hermione Granger, a girl with thick chestnut hair. She's incredibly smart, and I'm certain she'll be top student this year. She's been the best in her class since first year. The only downside? She's strict about school rules and hates breaking them, even when it's for good causes or because Ron and I are about to embark on one of our adventures. But then she throws every tantrum we can imagine. Still, she's a wonderful girl at heart. Do you like it? James asked with a sly grin. Hermione? Me? Who's that? I just see her as a good friend. The one who likes her is Ron, even though he won't admit it. Well, I'd love to see them, James said. Here's a photo if you'd like to check it out. Yeah. Let me see her. Harry pulled out the medal they'd given him the night before and handed it to James. When James opened it, he saw 3 14-year-olds. One was Harry himself, so the other boy must be Ron, while the girl had to be Hermione. The 3 smiled and waved, but then Ron and Hermione started what seemed like a good argument. Harry tried to stop them, but soon gave up, disappearing from the photo and leaving the other 2 to bicker. Looks like they're having a major fight, James said while staring at the photo. Are they always like this? Almost always. At first you try to stop it, but eventually you get tired and just let it go, he said as if it were something that could be easily dismissed. James returned the medal and was about to say more when a noise from his window interrupted him. When he looked through it, he smiled and gestured to someone downstairs, signaling them to come upstairs. Then he turned to Harry and gave him a warm smile. We have a visitor, he said with a smile. Get ready to meet Mr. Sirius Black. He hadn't finished speaking when someone knocked on the door, and it swung open without waiting for a reply. At the threshold stood a 15-year-old boy with jet black hair and striking blue eyes, his smile stretching from ear to ear. Before they could even open their mouths, he dashed toward James, leaping onto him while playfully tugging at his hair. James! Hey there! It's awesome to see you all together. I thought your parents would kill you over that Hawkins lady thing. Did your dad get really mad at you? You should have seen my mom. She looked like she was about to explode. No, thanks to the visit, it's been quite contained, James said while fumbling for his glasses. Visit? What visit? Sirius asked, deliberately taking off his glasses. You're the one behind me, Black. And now give me back my glasses, Tomadad, he said, handing him the glasses and turning around. James, there's a copy of yours in the room, Sirius exclaimed. This isn't a photocopy, idiot. It's my cousin. Your cousin?
Hello, I'm Harry Potter.
Harry introduced himself with a grin. Oh, sorry. I'm Sirius Black. He said, while giving him his hand. The magnificent Sirius Black. Don't start, Sirius, James said, sinking into the bed. What shouldn't I start with? He asked, raising an eyebrow. And Harry, how long will you be here keeping us company? Course, maybe more. So this year I'll be going to Hogwarts with you guys. Brilliant. Do you enjoy playing pranks?
Claro. ¿Qué pregunta?
Harry left James' room to grab something from his own, and a few minutes later came back in with a box that didn't look particularly large at first glance. Check this out, he said while opening the box. These are just jokes. Wow, there are so many, exclaimed James as he peered into the enchanted box. I've never seen any of these, not one of them, not even the other ones. Let me get this straight. I haven't seen a single one, Sirius said. Where did you get them? They gave them to me for my birthday, she said with a smile. I have some friends who want to open a prank shop after they graduate school, and they've come up with all these ideas. Honestly, I don't even know what they are yet. Hey look, cream cookies, Sirius exclaimed, grabbing one and about to take a bite. No, Harry shouted, trying to warn him. Too late. Harry's cry only made her swallow it down in fright. Then both James and he saw a small puff, and where Sirius had been standing before, there was now a giant canary. When James saw it, he couldn't help but burst into laughter, just like Harry. A few seconds later, the feathers fell off by themselves, and Sirius reappeared. After the initial surprise, he too began laughing. I'm sorry, Harry said with a chuckle. I tried to warn you because I already knew these ones. What are they? James asked while examining one of the cookie wrappers. Canary cookies. They had already been invented and established a school for them last year. Sir? You're kidding me. These jokes are heaven's gift, Sirius declared. What could we possibly do to Snape with all these? Can you imagine it, James? Yeah. James said with a dreamy expression. Snape? Harry asked, raising an eyebrow. The idea seemed intriguing. He's a Slytherin who's been sentenced to death. A damned fatty ball. He's always looking around for something to get us expelled from school. Sirius said with a disgusted look. That's why him and his crew are our main target. Oh, sounds interesting, Harry said. I suppose you wouldn't mind if I join you, right? Of course not, James said. Brilliant. Another loiterer, Sirius exclaimed. Days flew by, and Harry was having a blast with James and Sirius, cracking jokes and planning more for the start of school. But they always saved Harry's pranks until they had Snape around. That summer marked their second year together. Harry didn't go to Callahan Diagon, his grandparents did. But let's be real, he didn't really care much about it. The day before he had to leave for Hogwarts was the day he drifted away from the activities he'd been involved in until then. Memories of his previous years flooded his mind. Normally, Ron and Hermione were already with him that day, so they headed to the train together. The thought that this year wouldn't be the same actually saddened him, leaving him distracted and absent throughout the day. This worried the Potter family, James and Sirius, and became even more concerning when he retired early for bed. I miss you, Harry thought as he lay sprawled on the bed. Then something inside him lit up, and he started rummaging through his clothes for the medal the twins had given him on his birthday. It was the perfect moment to test it. Once he had it in his hands, he tried to calm down and opened it. As he carefully touched the face engraved with Ron's name, his heart began to race. The metal surface began to glow with intense light, and within seconds, an image gradually formed that slowly revealed itself to be a familiar red-haired boy he knew all too well. Harry! The image exclaimed. Hey, Ron, Harry said, though his voice was lower than his friend's. Hey, you should have let us know sooner. We were totally worried you'd run into trouble. Shoo! Keep your voice down or they'll hear you. He snapped back. I'm sorry. How are you, Harry? I'm doing great, don't worry. My grandparents and dad are really good to me, and honestly, I'm having a blast with my dad. Ron, let me in. I want to talk to Harry too. A voice came from behind Ron. There was a brief tussle, and then Hermione appeared. Harry, I'm so glad you're okay. Hey Hermione, how's it going? Awesome. Did you know? They just made me a perfect candidate. Wishing you happiness. I'm so happy for you. You'll be thrilled.
Mucho, she smiled.
Harry, Ron and I want to ask you a favor. What? I'll try, though I can't really do much from here. Tell us all the jokes you play with the troublemakers so we can pull off some on Malfoy. Hermione, are you okay? Harry was startled.
Claro que sí.
But you asking me how to make jokes? Well, Hermione blushed. You won't be here this year. And honestly, I think the class will be pretty dull. You know what I mean? Yeah, I get it. Don't worry, I'll handle it. Thanks. Now we should head to bed since we have to get up early tomorrow. Good night, Harry. The Hogwarts Express. 3. The Hogwarts Express. The next day, Harry felt someone gently shaking him awake. When he opened his eyes, he saw July Potter's kind face smiling at him. Good morning, Harry. It's time to get up. Good morning, Grandma. What time is it? It's 8 in the morning. Hurry up, breakfast's already ready. If you want to eat something, you'll have to get down before James finishes off everything. Well, right then and there, July Potter stepped out of the room and went down to the kitchen where her son was already munching on breakfast. At first, she smiled at her child's ravenous appetite, but her expression quickly changed. James, if you keep this up, you'll leave nothing for Harry. He snapped back at him. Well, he should have gotten down earlier, he said after swallowing everything in his mouth. James, you know I let him sleep in more because I was worried about his behavior yesterday. How are you? He asked, lifting his eyes from his breakfast. I think it's better. He seemed more animated. Who looked more animated? Harry asked from behind. "Oh, Harry, my goodness, you're up," he chuckled. "Come on, sit down and have breakfast." "Who were you talking about?" Harry asked. "From a friend of my dad's," James said quickly. "He's been in low spirits for a few days." Harry nodded and sat down to finish the meal that remained, since James had practically devoured everything. When he finished 10 minutes later, Mr. Potter appeared at the door, urging them to hurry up. "Come on, boys, we need to get moving. Are the suitcases packed yet?" "Yeah, I handled it myself last night," July replied. "Let's go," Robert said emphatically. "Everyone to the car." "And Sirius?" James asked. "Isn't he coming with us?" "No," his father replied. "He'll take him." Everyone headed to the car parked at the entrance. After loading the boys' suitcases, they climbed inside and set off toward King's Cross Station, where the youngsters would board the train to Hogwarts. When they arrived at the station, it was packed with people. Everyone seemed in a hurry, rushing toward the different platforms. No one appeared to notice the crowd gradually disappearing between platform 9 and 10. Harry remained calm. This was easy enough. The only challenge was maintaining a certain level of concealment so that muggles wouldn't notice him. "You'll see, Harry, it's a piece of cake. You don't have to worry about anything. To reach the platform, you just need—" But James never finished explaining how to reach the platform, because Harry, with the calmness of experience, calmly pushed his stroller and slipped through the barrier between platforms without a hitch. James rushed to join him, followed by his parents. Harry was waiting for them on the other side, completely at ease. "How did you know that?" James asked. "How did you figure out what you needed to do to reach the platform?" "My parents explained it to me," Harry replied. "I get it. You could have just told me. That way I wouldn't have had to explain it to you."
I'm sorry.
"I didn't expect you to explain this to me," he replied. "Well, that's all that matters now," Mrs. Potter said. "Don't you have to find a seat on the train?" "That's true," James said. "Come on, Harry. You'd better go ahead, James. I need to speak with Harry for a moment," Mr. Potter said. James nodded and started walking away from his parents, while Harry stayed behind with them. Once they were out of sight, Robert Potter looked at Harry with a serious expression. "Harry, I've already sent the letter to Professor Dumbledore and received the reply this morning." "What was I telling you?" "He told me he understood the matter's importance and would keep it discreet. He also said you should follow James to school instead of joining the first-year group, and not to be surprised if you spot Professor McGonagall waiting for you. She'll guide you to speak with him." "Well, I knew you'd do something like this," Harry said calmly. "Okay, now let's go find James." Mrs. Potter smiled. "Do we do this together?" a voice said behind him. When the three turned around, they faced Sirius Black, who was as grinning as ever, accompanied by a man in his 40s with jet black hair and eyes as blue as his son's. "John, how nice to see you," said Mr. Potter.
Y Robert.
"How's everything going?" The person mentioned greeted him. "Here we go again, just like always. How's your trip to Spain going?" "Oh, great. You know they're very open and friendly people." "And you, James? Not greeting me?" "No, Dad, he's not James," Sirius corrected. "It's Harry." "John, let me introduce you to my nephew, Harry Potter." "Harry, this is John Black, Sirius's father." "You're welcome, Mr. Black. Come on, Harry, before anyone else mistakes you for your cousin," Sirius said as he nudged him aside. The two boys moved away from the adults and began searching for James among the train cars. They found him near the end in an empty compartment where he had already stowed his luggage. When they spotted him, Harry greeted Sirius cheerfully as he climbed up to arrange his belongings inside. After a while, Harry heard loud noises coming from outside the compartment. When he poked his head out, he found James and Sirius had already joined two others he quickly recognized as the remaining loiterers. He figured it would be better to stay inside the train so he wouldn't have to deal with Peter. But James made sure he couldn't do that anyway. "Hey, Harry, come on out. They want to meet you," exclaimed James. Come on," Harry replied, adding as he stepped out. "At least you could let me set things up calmly." When Harry lifted his gaze, he couldn't help but smile with satisfaction at the looks on Remus and Peter's faces when they saw him. Their faces were priceless. Still, he walked over until he stood right next to James, making their striking resemblance even more apparent. "Peter, Let me introduce you to my cousin Harry. This is Remus Lupin and Peter Pettigrew, James said, gesturing at each of them. Hello, Harry said as he shook hands with Remus and Peter, though the latter seemed less enthusiastic than Remus. I've been eager to meet you all. We're talking about you too, trust me. James and Sirius have spoken highly of you. Remus said, turning to the other two. Oh, you told us they looked alike, but we never imagined it this much. You almost look like twins. Honestly, they do look strikingly similar. When Harry arrived, I even mistook him for James for a moment. July Potter remarked as she joined the group of parents accompanying the wanderers. Are you all here already? Asked Robert Potter. No, Lily is missing. Everyone burst into laughter at James' comment, as it was common knowledge that those two lovebirds were deeply, if not passionately, in love with each other. The best proof of this was Harry himself, though it's a shame only he and his grandparents knew about it. Don't worry about Lily, James. I doubt she'll be here for long. Better get on the train now, his mother said, and everyone began boarding. Hold on, Harry. I need to talk to you for a minute. Claro, tia July. Once everyone was inside the train and the other parents had gathered around the window, July approached Harry and gave him a tender hug. Harry, would you like us to find a way to let your parents know you're okay? Don't worry, Grandma, Harry replied with a smile. I'll find my own way to let those I care about know I'm doing well in the future. In fact, I've already done it. All right, my dear. Then take extra care this semester. Harry boarded the train and smiled at James's nervous expression, noticing Lily hadn't arrived yet. Then a red-haired woman caught his eye, and with remarkable composure, he turned to his future father. Dime James, Lily wouldn't be a red-haired girl with green eyes by chance, right? Yeah, how do you know that? He replied, because I just saw her walk into the train carriage. As if to confirm the earlier words, the compartment door swung open and out came a smiling Lily who rushed to hug James, who reciprocated the embrace. When they finally parted ways, when they saw the two were blushing, they burst into laughter. From outside, the parents joined in the mirth too. Well, I think James will be calmer now, right? Her father chuckled. That's what I think, he said. His mother nodded, and as the train pulled out of the station, she added, all right, folks, keep your heads down until the holidays. James, watch your cousin. Don't worry, Mom. I'll take care of Harry. Goodbye, James said as the train began to pull away. Goodbye, all the loiterers said, waving their hands in farewell. When the train station disappeared from view, everyone settled into their seats. That's when Lily noticed Harry, who had been silent until now. You must be Harry, right? He said with a big grin. Yes, and you, Lily, James' girlfriend. I'm glad to meet you, he replied, extending his hand with a smile on his lips. I mean the same thing. You know what? It's weird to see someone so much like James, even if they're family. I know it feels strange to me too. Even though they told me about it almost my whole life, I didn't fully grasp it until I saw it. You mean you hadn't seen each other before this summer? I asked Remus, surprised. Exactly, he said. Honestly, I didn't even know you had a cousin, because they never told you before, right? Harry asserted, causing James to blush. Everyone burst into laughter at the situation, while James grew increasingly uncomfortable. This had already taken up most of his time. The day came when the candy cart lady appeared just as Harry had suspected. She wasn't the same as before. Everyone grabbed some sweets. They just opened a bag of assorted treats when the compartment door swung open, revealing a pale-skinned blonde boy with 3 friends. One of them sported greasy black hair. Harry didn't need anyone to tell him right away. He recognized them as Snape, Lucius Malfoy, and the parents of Crabbe and Goyle. But look at who we're dealing with here, said Lucius Malfoy in the same tone his son used to use. Potter and his bunch of losers. Shut up, Malfoy, James snapped angrily. What's going on, Potter? Snape said. You don't like being told that, do you? Right? Truths hurt. That's why it stings when your crew and that bloodthirsty bunch get called failures. Before anyone in the classroom could react, Harry had already drawn his wand and was dangerously pointing it at the person who would become his potions teacher. Take it away, he whispered, his voice icy cold that cut to the bone. Who are you anyway? You must be another Potter. I didn't know you had a twin, he said to James. But it doesn't matter. I'm sure it's just another failure. Harry didn't even get a chance to cast the jelly legs curse when Sale, who had been sleeping in the front pocket of his owner's shirt, had already pulled his head out and attacked them, had unleashed a blazing fire that sent them all fleeing in panic. Wow, Harry, that scared me, James said. Yes, that's true. You've given them a lesson. Remus added. Yeah, but you shouldn't have done that. You could have gotten yourself in a mess. I don't care what I'm called, Lily said. But not me, Harry declared. My mother is a Muggleborn, and so is my best friend. I can't stand people insulting Muggleborns. The topic never came up again during the rest of their journey, but the boys noticed that as they neared Hogwarts, Harry grew increasingly withdrawn and immersed himself more deeply in his inner world. Harry, James said after a while. Yes, we've finally made it. Conversations with Dumbledore.
4 charlas con Dumbledore.
Harry stepped off the train and looked around. Everything remained exactly as he remembered it from his time. A smile crept onto his face when Hagrid's figure emerged, calling out to the first-year students. The boy's eyes widened as he saw Hagrid turn toward them, waving at the curious onlookers. You're not going with Hagrid, are you? Lily asked as she watched the giant walk toward the lake with the terrified students. No, James's dad wrote to the principal and got him to send him to school with you guys. Together, they climbed into the first carriage they saw and headed toward the castle. Just like during the final train ride, Harry remained stubbornly silent, which worried the loiterers. Harry's mind kept replaying the recent school events, with the final feast scene playing out vividly. He saw Cho crying as everyone toasted Cedric, the first victim of Voldemort's return. As if the memories were somehow connected, Harry saw the green lightning beam again, now heading toward his Hufflepuff friend. The dying light fell as Voldemort's icy laughter echoed through his mind. With a heavy eyelid, he closed his eyes as the memories sent shivers through his body. Harry, are you okay? James's anxious voice snapped him back to reality. With a slight start, he opened his eyes to find 5 pairs of concerned eyes staring at him. Forced into a forced smile, he tried to calm them down. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. But you look so pale, Lily said cautiously. Honestly, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. It's just that I remembered something unpleasant. The others didn't seem convinced by her answer, but since they'd already arrived at the school, they couldn't continue the interrogation. When all the loiterers saw Professor McGonagall standing at the entrance, they were taken aback, not just them. But the whole school was buzzing with questions about why the professor had shown up there. I suppose you're the young Potter, right? He said as he approached Harry. Exactly, I replied. Could you kindly accompany me, Mr. Potter? Harry bid farewell to the others for the moment and followed the professor down the corridors, knowing exactly where she was heading. His guess was spot on. Professor McGonagall stopped right before a grotesque gargoyle that came to life when she murmured a word. They climbed the stairs and knocked on the door. Passin'. The Muggle observers watched as Harry walked away with his Transfiguration teacher, looking worried. Ever since Harry confronted Snape about his unusually quiet demeanor, as if something was bothering or worrying him, they had kept their distance despite growing uneasy. But when they saw him pale and trembling from that, in the end, neither James nor anyone else could hold back any longer, even though Harry hadn't wanted to respond. My mind's not at ease, James said. Yeah, it's still yesterday, Sirius insisted. And yet when I saw him this morning, I'd swear he was better. He was better, James asserted, but something had to happen for him to end up like this. All this, James, Remus began. You haven't told us how Harry's here. Maybe that'll help us figure out his behavior. Yeah, that. What's the reason? Sirius asked. I'd say so, but I'm not sure. Don't you know that? 4 voices asked simultaneously. No, my parents wouldn't tell me and explicitly forbade me from asking Harry about it. But, didn't they tell you anything? Yes. According to them, it was due to health issues, but by forbidding me from asking Harry how it turned out, it was crystal clear that it wasn't true. Well, whatever it is, I think the director knows that, Lily asserted. When Harry entered Dumbledore's office with Professor McGonagall, it felt like time had stood still. The same night as the Triwizard tournament. This realization sent another shiver through him. There, Right behind the desk stood Professor Dumbledore, looking younger yet still wearing that same warm, friendly smile. "Welcome, Harry, please take a seat." Harry was about to sit down when he felt someone hug him from behind and pat his back. He managed to turn around as quickly as he could, only to see who had touched him. His eyes widened like a startled pan when he saw what was happening. "Ron, Hermione, what are you doing here?"
Surprise.
they said at the same time. But, please, if you could kindly take your seats, we can talk more calmly," Dumbledore said with a smile. Harry, Ron, and Hermione sat right across from the headmaster and Professor McGonagall. The latter two were in high spirits and full of energy, while the first one looked completely lost. "Okay," Dumbledore began. "I was expecting you to explain why these two young boys, Harry, are here. But honestly, I think you're just as confused as I am." Harry nodded as Ron and Hermione tried to suppress their laughter. "All right, we'll sort that out later. Right now, you're the one who needs to step up. According to the letter Mr. Potter sent me about my future self, you're here to protect you from Lord Voldemort for a while. Is that correct?"
Sí, señor.
"Okay. Looks like you're starting your 5th year here. And even though they say you're a Gryffindor, do you mind if we reclassify you?"
No, señor.
"All right, now that we've dealt with you, I think these two guys should give us some answers." "Yes, sir." Hermione began. "My name is Hermione Granger, and he's Ron Weasley. Harry is our best friend." Dumbledore nodded for her to continue. "At the end of last year. Well, from our last year, the Nameless One returned after nearly 14 years, appearing only as a shadow but using a spell that left Harry at his mercy." "Yes, that's exactly what the letter said. You saw the safeguards around him weren't enough, so you sent him to a time when the Nameless didn't see him as a threat because he was unaware of his existence." Ron continued, "And that's exactly what he did. Harry was sent to this era. From the moment Harry disappeared, both Ron and I kept insisting we wanted to be with him. Because no matter how much James Potter is his father, we're still his friends. We kept pushing all month, and only yesterday did they finally give us permission to come. Here we are, ready to stick with Harry until the end." Ron concluded. "Oh, I was talking to you yesterday. You could have just told me," Harry exclaimed. "And ruin the surprise?" Hermione asked. "Never," they both said in unison. Dumbledore gazed at the 3 teenage girls before him, their shared experiences making their friendship seem to have reached new heights. He smiled, thinking how fortunate they were to have friends like these. "Okay, since this little issue seems to have been resolved, let's head over to the main dining room. That's where you'll be reclassified. Do you agree?" "Yes, sir." The 3 of them responded simultaneously. "Okay, Minerva, are you taking them with you?" "Yes, please follow me, all 3 of you," said Professor McGonagall. Professor McGonagall led them through the corridors until they reached the room that reminded them of their first year. There, the first-year students were already waiting for them, all looking visibly shaken. The 3 of them felt a twinge of guilt. They could have easily told them that the selection process simply involved putting on a hat, but if they had done so, it might have drawn some attention. After Professor McGonagall finished her speech, she began guiding them to the Great Hall. Before entering, however, she asked the 3 of them to wait there until she called them. "Ron, are you still carrying the communicator?" Harry asked once McGonagall had left.
No.
He shook his head vehemently. "I left it to my brothers. That way we can keep track of what's happening at school." "Why?" Curiosidad. In the grand dining hall, the selection had concluded and everyone was eagerly awaiting their meal. The loiterers remained anxious as Harry had vanished. When all eyes were fixed on their plates with eager anticipation, the director rose to capture everyone's attention. "Okay, I know you're all craving something to eat, but first I need to announce something. During this course, we'll be hosting a small-scale performance of the Salem Witch School from North America." Muffled murmurs rose up. "All students. So first we need to categorize them, don't you think?" "Well, we know where Harry was now, right?" Lily said. "Yeah, but why did he use the plural?" Remus asked.
No idea.
James and Sirius replied simultaneously. At that moment, the doors of the Great Hall opened, and 3 teenagers walked in, approaching Professor McGonagall with complete composure. "Wait, those are Ron and Hermione," James exclaimed. "Who are they?" asked the other four. Harry's best friends. James exclaimed in surprise as he watched them approach his teacher. Harry told me about them and even showed me a photo of all three of them. But he didn't mention they'd be coming. McGonagall's voice silenced them, as she began explaining the task they needed to complete at that moment. When you call them, you'll put on your hat and be sorted into a house. Hermione Granger. Hermione approached the hat with calm composure and slipped it on. Within seconds, the hat blared Gryffindor. In a shrill voice, with a smile that had been reserved for her friends, she walked to the Gryffindor table, settling down right across from the squirming crowd and turning to check out the selection. Harry Potter, McGonagall said, as murmurs rose throughout the great hall. Harry, with the same calm Hermione had when she walked toward the hat prepared for a discussion with it. Oh, so you're Harry. Your personality is just like your father's. Didn't you know? The hat said to him. Yes, everyone tells me that. All right, let's see which house I'll put you in. In the future, I considered sending you to Slytherin. And I see there were reasons, but you've proven yourself to be a true Gryffindor, even managing to pull Godric Gryffindor's sword from my body. So, Grain God. Harry stood up and, like Hermione, said goodbye to Ron with a see you later before sitting down beside Hermione. After a smile at the loiterers, he turned to check Ron's ranking. A few minutes later, Ron joined them at the table and sat right next to Harry. Great job, guys. I knew you could do it. Hermione exclaimed excitedly. Did you even think twice about it? That was the response both boys gave simultaneously. The three exchanged glances and burst into laughter, while the loiterers found themselves caught between confusion and calm as they watched Harry grow more animated. Harry, you didn't tell me your schoolmates were coming too, did you? James said. Well, I didn't know that. Harry replied with a big smile. I just found out when I saw them. What's Harry? Don't you introduce yourself? Ron said, leaning slightly on his shoulder. Maybe if you stop relying on me? Okay, I'm leaving now. What next? These are Ron and Hermione, my best friends. Guys, this is my cousin James, his girlfriend Lily Evans, and his friends Sirius Black and Remus Lupin. Yes, he added with a wince. And Peter Pettigrew. The loiterers were slightly perplexed. Initially, Harry and his friends had been beaming with delight during the introductions, but their expressions turned sour when Peter was introduced. This was highly unusual. What on earth had Peter done to them? Classes and secrets that aren't what they seem. 5. Classes and secrets that aren't what they seem. Harry had as much fun at that banquet as he ever did at any other gathering. As they ran around, Ron and Hermione kept him updated on what had been happening at home. Meanwhile, Harry laughed heartily along with the twins, as they shared their jokes with his brother Percy. I'd love to see Percy's face. He must have been absolutely nuts. Harry said, laughing. You wouldn't believe it. Did you know he actually took the joke seriously? Ron said. Seriously? Harry asked in surprise. And why did this change happen?
Ni idea.
Dumbledore rose and after a few words, dismissed everyone to their dormitories. As they began to leave, the students followed their house prefects James and Lily for Gryffindor House. Harry seems way more cheerful now that his friends are with him, said Remus as he watched Harry and the other two laughing and joking around. Yeah, but I don't think it was because I missed them that way, Sirius said. I think those two guys, if they know what's going on and how to get it off their minds and keep him motivated, James assured. And since I'm James Potter, I'll figure it out. They entered the fat lady's room, and after Lily gave the password, everyone went inside. James pointed out where the boys' dormitories were, while Lily showed the girls' section. Everyone headed to their beds to sleep. Harry and Ron were pleased to see their beds in the same spot as when they used to stay there. Without saying much, they slipped into bed. About an hour later, Harry and Ron got out of bed and made their way to the common room, where Hermione was already waiting comfortably in one of the armchairs. You're late. That was the only thing he said without even turning around. We're sorry, but we needed to make sure everyone was asleep first. It doesn't matter, Hermione said with a smile as she turned around. You're carrying it on your back, aren't you, Harry?
Claro.
Harry started rummaging through his clothes and soon pulled out the medal, showing it off. He opened it and rubbed one of its sides, and before long, Two voices echoed through the entire common room. Harry. Hey Fred. Hey George. How's everything going? Well, there was quite a commotion when everyone saw you weren't there. I think many thought you'd been attacked, Harry, but that you hadn't come out unscathed, said the image of Fred. Well, everyone's been freaking out over that possibility. And that fool's attitude hasn't helped much either, George said. What did the director say? Ron asked. Well, to be honest, he didn't really explain much. He just said you won't be attending this school this year and that it's not safe for you to do so next year. But he didn't specify much. Fred said. So, does nobody suspect where we are? Hermione asked. No, that'll give us a breather, said Harry absent-mindedly. Any updates on Hasiko's? Not much of a deal, George remarked, just like Ron and Hermione, who's still keeping up with the old crew. You'd better contact him yourself. He'll be worried about you, Harry. Fred added. Okay, don't worry about it, guys. Harry said. Let's make sure everyone remembers our part. Harry, Fred shouted before the man could finish putting on the medal. Yes? Does it even bother you if we tell our coworkers at home where you are? If the director agrees, I don't mind.
Hasta pronto, Harry. Hasta pronto.
Harry fastened the medal and stood in silence with Ron and Hermione, gazing at the flickering fireplace. From the stairwell, the loiterers watched Lily and the scene unfold, their eyes locked in puzzled silence. Before Harry could react, they had already climbed into the dormitory. The next day, they'd be discussing it among themselves. Shortly after, the trio said their goodbyes and went to bed. As soon as Harry closed his eyes, he fell completely asleep. It almost felt like he'd just dozed off when he felt something soft strike his face. A jolt that sent him shooting awake with a start. When he saw what had woken him up, he found Ron laughing with the pillow in front of his friend's bed. Ron, he snapped angrily. Good morning, Harry. That was his only response. Can you tell me why you woke me up like this? It's so much fun. Ron laughed. So much fun. Huh? He said with a smile that didn't look good at all. Harry, what are you thinking? Ron began to panic. Now you'll see. 2 seconds later, Harry was chasing Ron around the room. Though Ron was significantly taller than him, he ran like he was being chased by the devil. Meanwhile, his friend kept giving him backhand slaps as he chased, while the onlookers laughed and kept walking away. When they finally grew tired, they changed into clothes and went downstairs for breakfast. The girls were already waiting there, watching them and commenting on their schedules. When they saw them, the girls smiled. How's the night going? Lily asked. You should probably ask how you feel about waking up. Harry? Sirius chuckled. Oh, Calla, Ron, don't you tell me you've woken Harry up again with that clean pillow? Well, I won't tell you, he replied. Ron, if you keep this up, you'll kill yourself before. Hermione suddenly fell silent under Harry's gaze. Before what? Asked Remus. Nothing, absolutely nothing, she said nervously while spreading jam on her face. 5 minutes later, Harry, Ron, and Hermione were already heading to the spell class, and the loiterers could chat freely without a care in the world. This is very strange. It's as if those three are hiding a big secret around Harry, Lily said. They're hiding it. Did you see Harry's face when Hermione almost slipped up? It was almost like the one he had yesterday after that Snape incident. James asserted. I'd like to know what that is. Remember last night's incident? Guys? Remus asked. Of course, Sirius said. They talked to that weird guy with people from their other school, and apparently the absence of those three has caused a major disruption. Those two said they thought they'd attacked Harry, and that made them nervous. Plus, it seems nobody knows where they are, Lily said. It's almost like they were hiding Harry to protect him, James declared. But who or what should we protect it from? Asked Remus. No clue. And who's Hasiko's? That's a weird name for someone, right? Sirius quipped. Hey, better go to class or we'll be late, Lily suddenly said. The Daydreamers had to dash to avoid missing Professor Flitwick's class. They found the trio comfortably seated and had already made room for the 5 latecomers. Within 2 minutes, the professor entered to begin his lecture. He climbed onto his usual books and looked at the class eagerly awaiting him. All right, class. Today we'll start with magical duels. Flitwick began, causing murmurs through the room. We'll begin with something very basic, the disarm spell. Does anyone know what this is about? Without hesitation, Harry, Ron, and Hermione raised their hands to respond, leaving the others stunned. Yes, Weasley? The disarmament spell involves taking away the opponent's wand. Sir. Right, Mr. Weasley. 5 points for Gryffindor. Does anyone know what the spell is? The 3 hands rose again. Yes, Mr. Potter?
Expelliarmus, señor.
Exactly. 5 points for Gryffindor. Who do you think could cast that spell? The same 3 hands again. Would you try it, Miss Granger? Yes, sir. Hermione said as she stood up. When you count 3, 1, 2, 3. Scram. Hermione shouted before Professor Flitwick could even open his mouth. He had cast the spell that made the professor's wand fly straight to Hermione's left hand, which made everyone burst into applause and left the professor staring in disbelief. You 3 had already used this spell before, right? Yes, sir. The 3 responded in unison. Can you tell me under what circumstances? The spells of mourning aren't taught until 5th year. When we were in 2nd grade at school, they formed a duel club where we learned it all. Hermione replied. Then you know all the spells of farewell. No, sir, there were some minor technical glitches and only 1 session took place. Harry said, technical issues? What kind of problems? Like when a giant snake appeared and nearly bit off one of our guys' head with a single bite. Ron said as if that were the whole story. After that, nobody had the guts to go back for another session. Well, okay, pair up and practice the spell between yourselves. Flitwick said, slightly startled. The class quickly split into pairs and began practicing the spell. Naturally, Harry paired up with Ron and Hermione, while Lily teamed up with Lily. Meanwhile, the free-spirited students mingled together in their own groups. Magic wands started flying everywhere in no time. Though there was one wand that kept popping up most often in the air, Ron's magic wand. Give me up. Harry snatched the wand from him for the 16th time. You can't take me down. You're always faster than me. But when I can say it at the same time, you always win. Come on, don't look so serious, Ron. Harry smiled. You're doing great, just a bit faster. Yeah, but you've got more practice than I do, said the red-haired guy looking dejected. Harry has more practice with this spell than the 2 of them combined, Ron. He sentenced Hermione. He's had more chances to test it out. The Wanderers exchanged glances between confusion and interest. They had initially thought Ron and Hermione knew what was happening to Harry, but now they were more certain. They needed to talk to them as soon as they could find a chance. After that, Harry, Ron, and Hermione took a herbaria class with Professor Sprout. It felt like coming home. The same teachers, the same places, just different classmates. But that was easy to handle. Plus, with the roaming students around, it was hard not to have fun, especially since they kept throwing in jokes and little pranks. After the meal, Slytherin's potion session began. While the free-riding students were scheming their own tricks, Harry, Ron, and Hermione couldn't help but feel a twinge of sadness as they reminisced about their own potion classes from years past. Oh, that's going to be awesome, Sirius exclaimed. I gotta see that for myself. The real challenge will be getting close enough to their boiler to do it. Will you help us instead of Harry? What's up with you guys? You're floating in the clouds. Lily asked. How's the potions teacher? Ron asked. Professor Rainey? Well, he's kinda short, has curly hair, and a big mustache. Why? Remus asked.
No.
If we weren't talking about that, Hermione said. Our regular potions teacher is really upset and has a particular grudge against our class. Well, and within that particular grudge, the 3 of us have it even more special. Ron added. But nothing compares to what he has against Harry. We've got a sworn oath. Well, as far as I know, it doesn't have any particular quirks, right? Peter said. It's pretty nice. Seriously? The 3 asked. Yes, he said serious. And now, will you help us? What? The 3 asked. We're gonna cast a spell on Snape so he'll blurt out I love Gryffindor every 10 minutes. James said. I have to see this out. The 3 funny guys exclaimed. After some time, the 8 students arrived at the potion lab. True to their earlier rumors, the potion professor turned out to be a genuinely likable character. After explaining all the essential steps for making the potion, He began checking on their progress as they worked. "We need to distract the professor," James muttered. "Leave it to us, then," Harry replied. 2 seconds later, Hermione's hand was in the air. The professor soon heard her anxiously worrying about whether applying Bear's Paw before the toad's tail would have any effect. While the poor yet confident professor tried to calm her down by assuring her that the color indicated proper application, Sirius approached the intensely focused Snape and whispered something as he pointed with his wand. Just as Sirius returned to his seat next to James, Hermione composed herself and the professor moved from his desk. The boys exchanged knowing smiles. An hour later, as everyone began leaving the potion room, they all looked at Snape with eager anticipation. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, said James. "Gryffindor is the best," Snape said, horrified, clutching his hand to his mouth. When the Gryffindor students saw Snape's terrified face, they burst into laughter. The mirth continued 10 minutes later when the same scene replayed, lasting through dinner that night, causing laughter not just among Gryffindors, but Ravenclaws and Hufflepuffs too. That night, everyone kept talking about it late into the night in Gryffindor's common room. Harry didn't find this particularly amusing, as he was eager to get in touch with Sirius. "Harry, aren't you going to bed?" Remus asked, noticing they remained seated in their armchairs.
No.
"I'm still wide awake. What about you two?" he asked Hermione and Ron. "No, neither do we." "Well then, until tomorrow," they said. But as soon as they passed the stairs leading to the bedrooms, they threw James's invisible cloak over their shoulders. A few minutes later, they returned to the common room and watched the trio, who remained silent for a while longer. "Think they've already gone to bed?" Ron asked. "Well, I hope so," Hermione said. "I don't think anything worse could happen to us than them discovering us." "Exactly them. Okay, let's get started," Harry said as he opened the same medal he'd used the day before. "Harry," a voice from adulthood exclaimed. "Good thing you reached out to me. I was starting to worry. How's it going?" "I'm fine. Oh, chicos." "What worries me is you. You can call me Sirius." "There's no danger right now," Sirius said. "How's it going, Harry? Everything okay?" "Don't worry. I told you I'm fine." "Sirius, tell me, how's it going over there?" "Everything's going great. Everything's going awesome." "Sirius, I want the truth. I can't believe things are going well with Voldemort lurking around." "Alright, you're right. Things aren't going well. Voldemort has started attacking witches and wizards. 3 wizards have been found dead under the Dark Mark, along with 4 Muggle victims. The Ministry is overwhelmed. It can't keep hiding the fact that Voldemort's back, nor can it pretend he didn't want to be ignored. If Fudge weren't such a complete fool, this wouldn't have happened," Ron declared. "Ron, of course. But here's the thing. He's back to his old ways and now he's after Harry. Is there any way you could know where I am?" Harry asked. "I don't believe it. If I knew, I'd have done something by now." "I see. Harry, don't let that get to you. What you need to do is have as much fun as you can. Try to enjoy the anonymity you have right now." I know, Harry said. "Don't worry, I promise I'll try. That's exactly how I like it. Have fun, Harry. See you soon. Adios, Sirius." The 3 fell silent, their eyes fixed on the closed medallion. No words were needed. The wanderers, who had remained eerily still, gazed into the cloak with equally anxious eyes, their faces clouded with uncertainty. Who was Harry Potter truly? Full moon, 7 animagos? 6. Full moon, 7 animagos? After that, the squatters grew even more vigilant about Harry than before. It wasn't just that he occasionally seemed absent. They now knew for certain Voldemort wanted to kill his friend. What added fuel to the fire was their strange conversation about that peculiar rumor. As they had discovered, Harry always carried that man around like a constant presence. Nearly 2 months had already passed in class, and the trio was clearly showing off their extensive knowledge and training. While Harry seemed more energetic, he often appeared disconnected from everything around him. Though Ron and Hermione tried to cheer him up, their efforts rarely paid off. "Hey Harry," James said as he and Ron played another chess game, which, as always, was Ron winning. "What do you want? Would you like to join in making some mischief with Snape?" He replied. Checkmate, he shouted as the king of Harry threw down the crown. What do you mean by doing something like that? We still don't know yet, Sirius said. We could use some of the jokes your brothers gave me. Harry mused. Though most of them I don't even know what they are. But I did. Ron protested. Whenever they finished something, they'd test it at home. Usually Percy was the target, but I wasn't spared either. Brilliant! 7 voices exclaimed in unison as Hermione and Lily suddenly appeared. What could we use? Harry asked. What do you think of humor sugar? Ron said. It's super fun. You swap regular sugar for this stuff. When you take it, about 15 minutes later, you get 2 reactions. First, all your mood swings intensify. When you feel a bit sad, you start crying like a Magdalena doll. Then, depending on how you're feeling, your hair changes color. Fantastic! Exclaimed Remus. How long does it take? If you don't use the remedy for 3 days, then 2 hours. Ron replied. What's the remedy? Hermione asked. The special one. Then we'll do it tomorrow at breakfast. The next day they did exactly as planned. James descended with his invisibility cloak and approached Slytherin's table, tossing sugar into Snape's juice and toast. After exiting the Great Hall, he removed his cloak before re-entering. The prank had gone completely wrong. Soon Snape began displaying emotional reactions, his hair changing color. With no one knowing who had orchestrated this, there was no way to restore normalcy. Where are you off to, Remus? Harry asked as he watched him leave as quickly as possible. Well, it's because my mom's got a medical condition. Another time? Didn't it already happen last month? Hermione asked. Wasn't it the same last month? Ron added. Well, it's got lingering effects. What a coincidence, and they all coincide with when it's full moon. Harry said as if this were the case while Remus turned pale. And today's also full moon. Starts today, right, Hermione? See, you're a werewolf, right, Remus? Harry asked. What? How? He began asking. We'll explain it to you when you return. Now, if you don't want to be transformed here, you'd better hurry up. Remus vanished from the portrait, while the loiterers stared at him pale-faced. In the end, Lily was the one who dared to ask. How do you know that? When we were in our 3rd year, we had a new dark arts teacher who would always fall ill whenever there was a full moon, and then he'd take over from our potion professor. Hermione began. It's no secret that our potion professor wants the defense position and has always harbored particular animosity toward teachers holding that role, Ron added. So during one of the substitutions, he made us study werewolves, even though we hadn't been assigned yet, to catch someone's eye. But he pulled a fast one on us because the 3 of us who noticed it were the ones who actually saw it, Harry said. Our new teacher had every trait of a werewolf. He was a werewolf, and you didn't tell anyone? Sirius asked. Of course not. Ron exclaimed. He was such a great teacher. Hermione said. What a great guy. Harry added, plus he's an old friend of my dad who helped me out way too many times during the school year. We kept your secret, but at the end of the course there were some minor issues. The potion professor missed that he was a werewolf. He had to resign, which is a shame because he was the best defense against the dark arts teacher we've ever had. So, are you going to explain Remus's situation to someone? Peter asked. No, Harry said sharply, then calmed down and told James. But I think becoming an animagus is a good idea. Amagito? Lily asked. How do you even know that? James asked. You need to be careful where you put your reference books. Ron said as Hermione pulled out a book. The 3 turned pale as they examined the book, while Lily remained utterly bewildered and the trio smiled. When Hermione handed them the book, the boys looked slightly calmer. We won't tell anyone, if you let us in, Hermione said. This is a golden opportunity for us. Why? To keep Harry safe from Voldemort? Peter said with malice. Peter. Then came the trio's turn to pale, as Ron and Hermione exchanged anxious glances at Harry, who seemed to have vanished once more. For a moment, they thought they might need to do something to make him react. Very well, Peter, he said in the same icy tone he used with Malfoy and his gang except when addressing Snape. You found out. When did you even know that? Oh, he said, retreating in terror. It was worse than when someone had done him any harm. We knew this from the very beginning of the school year, James said. We were worried about you and kept watching you. We overheard you talking to someone who said Voldemort was looking for you because, to kill me, Harry said coldly. Fine, do whatever you want. Honestly, I wasn't going to say anything anyway. Good night. The six watched as Harry disappeared down the stairs to the boys' dormitory, his face frozen in stone, showing no emotion. Just as he vanished, Ron and Hermione turned toward Peter with furious expressions, and it wasn't long before Hermione slapped him. Thank you so much, Peter. You've completely ruined the work of many people and months. Now that Harry's starting to forget it and getting back to his old self, you're making him remember it, Hermione said, visibly angry. But the person mentioned began. Good evening, exclaimed the other two. They left just as quickly as Harry and both headed toward the boys' bedroom. The loiterers looked at each other in confusion. Then James turned to Peter with a noticeably angry expression. You had to say it, right? You wouldn't have been at ease until you finally let it out. I didn't mean to. I totally lost my cool. Hey Peter, why was it so hard for you to tell them there's no problem? Wouldn't it be awesome if they turned into animagos too? Sirius said. I totally missed it. Guys, I don't think that's the main point now. Didn't you hear Hermione? She's acting all smug. Yeah, we're all to blame because we were the ones who spied on them. We should go up there and apologize. Lily said. They all nodded in agreement and began climbing the stairs to the boys' bedroom. As they reached the top, they still caught a few phrases from the conversation. Come on, Harry. Cheer up. You can't torture yourself like that. They heard Hermione say. That's true, Hermione is right. You're not to blame. They heard Ron say that. Of course I'm to blame. Cedric died because of me. It was me who told them to grab the trophy together. I killed him. They heard the anguished voice of Harry. You didn't kill him, Harry. It was... Voldemort did it. You can't blame him for what he does, Harry. Ron exclaimed, exasperated. But I could have avoided this. I should have realized when I saw them that I'd kill Cedric. Harry, you've never explained to us what happened that night, and we don't want you to tell us either if you're not feeling like it. You were prepared. You had tremendous courage in explaining it and reliving it for the director and Hossicos. We don't know how Cedric died, nor what Voldemort did to you. But we know you, Harry, perhaps better than anyone else. I'm certain if there had been any chance, you would have saved Cedric. Hermione said calmly. How can you be so sure? Harry asked. I'm so sure of it, Harry said. Just like I'm certain you were the one who leaped over a 3-meter troll to save my life when we barely got along. Or that you faced a 7-meter basilisk to save Ginny's life. He fell silent. And it wasn't just Ginny's life, it was also Hossicos. It was my fault he died. The bedroom door swung open, revealing the loiterers. James approached Harry and placed his hand on his shoulder. We didn't want to spy on you, Harry, at least not this time. But we couldn't help overhearing part of your conversation. Let me tell you, I don't think you're to blame for that death. James said. That's true, Harry. You can't take the blame for something Voldemort did. Lily insisted. Harry smiled at his parents' words, and Hermione and Ron nodded with satisfaction. James and Lily's words had had a far greater impact than anything Sirius, Dumbledore, or the Weasleys could have given him. We came up here to ask for your forgiveness, Sirius said. Even if we were worried sick, we didn't need to spy on you. Yeah, I'm really sorry, Harry. I didn't have to say that to you. We're sorry, Harry. We won't spy on you again. James and Lily said. You don't have to apologize for spying on us, Harry said. Right, guys? Of course not. Hermione said. Nothing happened. Seriously? James asked. No, because that's exactly what we'd have done in your place. Harry smiled. Everyone started laughing except Peter. He hadn't missed that Harry had forgiven him for spying on him, but he still couldn't forgive Harry for what he'd said. Like so many others, he wondered what Peter had done to deserve such a show of displeasure. Well, James started off, we were going to tell you before the incident that we'd love to have 6 animagos instead of 3. You're a demon. I'll do the same thing, too. Lily declared. Canuto, Caligusano, Cornamenta, and Lunatic. 7. Canuto, Caligusano, Cornamenta, and Lunatico. Who are the others? When poor Remus returned after the full moon, he was utterly shocked to discover everything that had happened during his absence. He was overjoyed when Harry assured him he wouldn't tell anyone and explained the reason, though he grew concerned upon learning that everyone would now be transformed into animagi. "We've been working for 2 years trying to become animagos," said James, "and we're almost there. We just need a few final tweaks. Now we're 4 minds stronger," Lily declared. "Yeah, and Hermione's got 2 points. Right, Hermione?" Ron said. "Ron? Hermy?" Harry asked, raising an eyebrow. "When did you start calling her that?" "Well," Hermione began, "you know how my name's so long, and here's the thing. One day in a hurry, someone called me Hermy, and, okay, whatever you say." Harry said with a grin. "So I can call you that too without you getting upset, right, Hermione?" "No, of course not." After that meeting, they spent countless hours in the library, with the 7 of them searching for the necessary points to transform. The Wanderers soon figured out why Ron had commented. As Hermione moved through the library with such ease, anyone would think she spent half her life there. After 2 weeks, they finally gathered all the essential information they needed. "Oh my God! How terrible it is that we didn't have Hermione from the start. We could have gotten there way faster," Sirius exclaimed after hearing all the steps they were supposed to take.
Man,
"Thanks for the treat we got," Harry, Ron and Lily exclaimed in unison. "No, if I didn't mean to. I must have said something wrong. I never meant to say." Everyone burst into laughter at Sirius' desperate attempts to salvage the situation. That same night, they decided to act on his plan. With James and Harry's invisible cloaks, the troublemakers were in for a rude awakening when they discovered Harry also had one. They made their way to an empty classroom far from the caretaker and Peeves. "It'll be fine here," said James. "Yes," Harry said. "Fitch is far away from here." They decided to take turns, so if anything went wrong, the other 7 could help. Sirius was the first to start, standing in the center of the classroom and pointing his wand. Everyone held their breath as a silvery light enveloped the boy, accompanied by a strange noise. When the light faded, Sirius remained unchanged. "What went wrong?" Peter asked. "I don't think so," Sirius said. "No? No, while I was casting the spell, I saw a big black dog," he asserted. "Of course, maybe it was just my imagination." "Try it out," Harry said. "Imagine the dog you saw and think about transforming into it," Hermione declared. Sirius nodded. A few seconds later, a massive black dog appeared before them, wagging its tail happily as it transformed back into Sirius. Next up was James, but with one key difference. When the light faded, instead of James came a stunning dark brown stag with truly blue eyes. "Yue!" he exclaimed when he regained his original self. "I'm a deer, Cornamenta." Harry smiled. "What?" the loiterers asked. "No," he said, "I just thought of it. Cornamenta could be your nickname." "What a brilliant idea!" exclaimed Sirius. "And what could I possibly name it?" "What do you think, Canuto?" Ron asked. "How does it work when you turn into a dog?" "I like it." "Remus could be called Lunatico, Crazy Moon, due to the moon's influence on him," Hermione asserted. After that, they decided Peter would be the one to test it. He needed more than 5 attempts before he could finally grasp it in his mind. A creature appeared, soon transforming into a tiny rat. Harry, Ron, and Hermione wore expressions of utter disgust when they saw the rat. When it reverted to human form, the first one even suggested Caligasano with a hint of disgust. "Well, I think I'll try it myself now," Lily said. He followed the same ritual as the others, waving his wand and focusing intently. As the light faded, they beheld a magnificent bird with long, warm plumage. Its silky feel texture and fiery red hues, shimmering like flames, contrasted with its piercing green eyes that sparkled like fire.
Es un.
Sirius began. "A phoenix," Harry said with certainty. "Oh," Hermione said. "I'd never seen one before." "What nickname should we give him?" asked Remus. "Eternity," Harry and James said at the same time, which made Ron and Hermione smile. They did look like father and son. Harry smiled as Lily began flapping her wings to test them, and the wings expanded when she perched on James's man figure, giving him a tender kiss. Lily hadn't fully returned to human form yet when Ron stepped forward, focusing intently on his wand. The same thing happened to everyone else, except that when the light faded, Ron had transformed into a young, handsome unicorn. Almost simultaneously, a fox appeared and perched on Ron's back. Apparently, Hermione had been so impatient that she did it almost at the same time as him.
Akatoul.
Harry mused with a chuckle. I should have guessed that. What else could it be? The chestnut-colored owl with its flamboyant feathers perched atop the unicorn's back and darted onto Harry's shoulder. Once securely settled, it snapped its claws shut with a sharp click. Oh, Hermione. That hurts. I didn't mean to hurt you. Yeah. That's what happens when you mess with a woman. Sirius laughed, and 2 seconds later he was the one complaining. What do you think of Noble for Ron and Plumaz for Hermione? Lily asked, now back in her human form. That's fine with me, I think. Ron said after returning to normal. So did I, Hermione said, doing the same thing. All right, now all that's left is... James began. Everyone turned to Harry, who smiled with serene calmness. Without uttering a word, he pointed his wand. This time, instead of a silver glow emanating from the wand, an intensely golden light enveloped Harry, dazzling everyone present. When the light faded and the group could see clearly, they encountered a magnificent deer with dark brown fur edged in golden stripes along its back and reddish golden tips on its legs. The sight left them awestruck, but as the deer turned, they noticed a striking silver lightning-shaped mark beneath its emerald-green eyes. The whole creature radiated an aura of power, strange, mysterious force that lingered in some part of its being. Who? That was all they could say when they saw him. A deer, Hermione said as she and Ron approached, beginning to stroke its head. I was certain it would be a deer. Yeah, Ron said, I'm the same. The wanderers exchanged surprised glances before Remus finally asked, how did you even know it would be a deer? We knew this because in 3rd grade, something happened that showed us he had a strong bond with that animal. It's pure coincidence that James and Harry ended up being the same animal. Plus, even though Harry is different, they look remarkably alike. Lily said, what nickname should we give him? Ron asked. How's the helmet thing? Hermione asked. It seems fine to me, Harry said after returning to normal. A new professor, 10. A new teacher? After that, Harry and the others began using their chosen names. With each full moon when Remus left to transform into a werewolf, the remaining members would escape from Gringotts Tower and enjoy pleasant moments while transformed into their respective animal forms. However, Harry couldn't join them due to a conversation with Dumbledore and intense surveillance by McGonagall. Hey, heads up, James said during breakfast. What do you want, Cornamenta? He asked. Toma, a card from my parents, he said as he stretched it out.
Vai, thanks.
Harry opened it and read it with a smile. Ever since he started his Hogwarts school year, his grandparents had been sending him letters every week. Something that thrilled Harry so much that he kept them all. What do you mean? Hermione asked. They ask me why I don't want to go to their house for Christmas, and they don't understand why James also doesn't want to go this Christmas. He replied. Well, if it's about us, Harry, don't worry. Ron said. We already knew that. Of course I'm worried. Plus you guys have done it every year, so now it's my turn to do it. But Christmas was almost here, and for now everything seemed calm. The news they received from the future was encouraging. Voldemort's former allies like the Giants and Werewolves had united against him, and all signs indicated that no one, except Gryffindors and those who knew from the start, knew where Harry was. This gave everyone a certain sense of calm. At that moment, Dumbledore rose from his seat and silenced everyone with a subtle gesture. When he noticed they were all paying attention, he began to speak. As you all know, Professor Andre had a minor accident and won't be teaching until next semester. What a shame. So starting now until the end of the term, we'll have a new teacher on board. I imagine he'll arrive anytime, so everyone who's enrolled in Defense Against the Dark Arts will still get their lessons. Whispers rippled through the Great Hall, but Dumbledore fell silent. Though Harry probably couldn't have heard much anyway, the moment the medal given by the Weasley twins began glowing, it signaled they were trying to contact them. Without delay, they rushed out of the hall and hid in a secluded corner. Fred, George, what's going on? He asked, his voice trembling with fear. Oh guys, good luck you guys. You're in for a big surprise. You must have never had one of those. What's the deal? Ron asked. You'll find out soon enough. You're gonna love it. Well, we'll see. Just as abruptly as the call had come, the communication ended. The three exchanged questioning glances. 2 minutes later, when the loiterers joined them, they still didn't know how to react. Then, as they were about to head to the potion class, Harry suddenly felt as if someone had grabbed him from behind. Hey, let me go! Let me go! He screamed as he struggled to break free from his captor's grip. To his surprise, as they had just grabbed him, they released him quickly yet gently. When Harry turned around, his eyes widened in astonishment and he was momentarily speechless. Standing before him was a tall man with jet black hair and azure eyes. "Oh, cowards!" he shouted, leaping forward to give them a hug. "Harry, come here, little devil," he exclaimed as he gave him a tight hug. "Can you believe it? Are you real?"
No, Imling.
"What questions?" he said while brushing his hair and taking off the glasses. "Give them back. You know I can't see a dick without them, Toma." Then he turned to the other two. "And you? You stopped greeting me? Hoo-hoo. It's because you didn't expect that, did you?" "No," the three men declared. "That's what it was about," he said with a smile. "Though I can't believe the twins didn't tell you anything." "Of course, that's exactly what they meant," Ron exclaimed. "And what are you doing here, Hasakos?" Harry asked. "I'm your new instructor in dark arts defense." "You?" Three voices asked simultaneously.
Sí, yo.
"Will you be our new teacher?" Lily asked. Sirius turned toward the group of wanderers with blank expressions, locked eyes with the five for a few seconds before finally smiling and nodding. "Yes, I'll be your new teacher. My name's Sirius Smith." He smiled. "And if I'm not mistaken, with the information the principal gave me and what these three little devils here have shared, you guys are the ones who are just loitering around, right?" "Yes, sir," Sirius Scarecrow said. "Professor, can we find out what the director explained to you?" asked Remus. "They absolutely love jokes and even go out of their way to explain some of them to me." "Don't take everything they say at face value," Professor James said with an innocent expression. "I just feel like I have to take this seriously." "And now, don't you have a class?" "It's true," they exclaimed. "Goodbye, teacher," the loiterers declared. "See you later, Hasakos," the trio declared. As the boys walked down the corridor, a voice behind the man made him jump slightly in fright. "Hasakos." As Sirius turned around, he saw the school principal alongside Deputy Headmistress Minerva McGonagall, who, like the elderly man, wore a playful expression on their face. "This James thing. He started calling me that a little before Harry was born, and Harry picked up the habit just like his friends did. He lied, unable to tell them it was the nickname they used to keep everyone at the ministry in the dark about him, since he was running from the law." "James Potter, why did he give you that nickname, Sirius Black?" McGonagall asked, her smile widening as she spoke. "Because he was just poking my heads around everywhere," Sirius said. But when the other two looked at him in confusion, he added, "Harry's my godson. Technically, I'm his guardian if anything happens to James and Lily." Both looked at him with concern, but after that they said nothing more and simply discussed the school program and why Sirius was there in Dumbledore's office. Honestly, nobody was really comfortable with the boys being here alone, without anyone to keep watch. If those three guys get their act together, they could turn out worse than us as loiterers, especially with all the support behind them. Material from the twin brothers of Ron. He chuckled. You know what? All the pranks they'd already pulled. Picture those three little devils hanging out with the loiterers. "And why you, Sirius?" Dumbledore asked. "Because that was the best way to stay unnoticed. If any of his parents showed up, they'd be too conspicuous, so they couldn't. It was just Remus and me left. Truth is, Remus wouldn't have been able to blend in either, given his werewolf status." "And Peter?" McGonagall asked. "Peter, it's been ages since we last spoke," he said with a tone that wasn't exactly friendly. "But let's change the subject instead. Okay, the best part is that Harry and you can have a calm conversation. Let's take advantage of the fact that you don't have class for a while. Minerva, could you please go and bring Harry here?" "Of course, Albus. You'll have it here right away," McGonagall said as she stepped out of her office. Professor McGonagall made her way through countless corridors before reaching the dungeons. where fifth-year Gryffindors were preparing potions with Slytherin. "Excuse me, Professor. May I take Harry with me for a moment?"
Claro. Potter, vaya.
"Pack your things, Harry. You're going straight to your next class," said McGonagall. After that, they returned to Dumbledore's office. Harry was confused. Why were they taking him to the headmaster's office? He couldn't remember doing any mischief lately. Once inside, he couldn't hold back his embarrassment. "Excuse me, Director, did I do something wrong?"
No, Harry.
"You haven't done anything. But I think you'll be eager to talk things through with Sirius calmly." Sirius grinned at him from the opposite end of the room. After saying goodbye to the other two teachers, they both left and started wandering around the school, much like Harry had done with the Weasley family last academic year, right before the final tournament match. Throughout the walk, they talked about everything under the sun, memories from their youth, stories about themselves, Voldemort-related events. Time flew by so fast that, when they finally realized it, they had to dash to avoid being late for defense class. It didn't matter if Harry was late, but if the teacher himself showed up, they arrived almost by a hair's breadth. Harry entered the classroom right as the bell rang, and Sirius followed closely behind. "Good morning, everyone," Sirius said as he entered. "My name is Sirius Smith. I'll be your defense against the dark arts teacher for the remainder of this term." Throughout the entire hour, Sirius proved himself to be anything but boring. His classes became as engaging for the trio as Remus's had been in his prime, with one key difference. While Remus always maintained a serious demeanor, Sirius couldn't seem to stay that way. The simple reason was that he was practically like a mischievous teenager, occasionally cracking jokes or dropping witty remarks. When the class ended, everyone left buzzing with excitement about how awesome it was, especially the roaming students and the trio. "Professor Smith is awesome," exclaimed James. "Yeah, your class has been both interesting and fun," Remus began. "A combination that's pretty rare." "You never told us he was such a great teacher," Sirius said. "Even I actually enjoyed him." "Well, we just didn't know about it," Harry stated. "Oh, come on, Headmaster. Don't be so full of yourself," Sirius exclaimed. "I can't believe you knew him and he wasn't your teacher." "Headshots?" a voice asked behind him. There stood Hossicos with an unpleasant expression. He looked downright furious. Harry had only seen that look once before, 12 years after he first encountered Calagasano at Azkaban, when the boy still insisted he was innocent. "You three, I want to talk to you now," he said sternly. "5 of you, tell your teacher they're late." The loafers nodded and left, casting worried glances at the trio before departing. As they walked away, Hossicos gestured for them to follow, leading them to his office and gesturing for them to sit down. "Hey, Cassos, Harry?" he asked. "Tell me it's not what I'm imagining." "Well, it's that. You've become an anonymous member without registration. Right, Harry?" "See, I pictured it myself." He sighed. "Not just him. We've all done it," Hermione declared. To his surprise, Hossicos smiled. In fact, he burst into laughter, and only after calming down did he manage to speak. "I knew it," he exclaimed, his voice rising with delight as the three exchanged puzzled glances. "The moment we sent it here, I already knew," he added cheerfully, his voice rising with delight. "I even mentioned it to Dumbledore." "Aren't you angry, Sirius?" Harry asked. "Angry? Of course not. Dumbledore and the Order of the Phoenix both believe transforming would be highly beneficial. It would serve as camouflage against Voldemort." "What exactly are you transforming into?" "I turn into a brown owl," Hermione said. "They call me the Feathered One." "A cat is the creature that's most suited to you. You're as clever as they are," Sirius declared. "And what about you, Ron?" "A unicorn. My nickname is Noble." "Curious. I haven't heard of anyone who turned into a unicorn." "And you, Harry, I suppose you'll become a deer instead, right?" Harry nodded. "I'd love to see you, well, more precisely, witness your animal forms in person." A soft puff was heard, and the three transformed. Sirius was utterly amazed by Harry's appearance, completely blown away by the sight. A little rat, 11A little rat. It's amazing how time flies when you're having a blast. That's exactly what happened to Harry. Between his classes and the time he spent with Hossicos and the loiterers, They realized it was already late April and the TEMO exams were just around the corner. Hermione started nagging her two friends about how they should have started studying earlier. Both boys put up with it calmly, and the loiterers even watched with admiration. Moreover, there was the fact that Hasakos began to appear nervous, almost as if something was about to happen, but he didn't want to explain it. For some reason, he started forbidding Harry from going out with the Wanderers during full moons. At first, it started with minor punishments he had to fulfill every night. Then, when it became clear he was gambling, Harry developed mild illnesses during each full moon, until he finally opened up to the boy. Harry, listen up. I don't want you hanging out with those shady guys at night. Okay? Why? Because you're rewriting the past. You guys sent me here. Harry, you heard that? I don't want you out at night. This made Harry furious with his godfather. Why would he forbid something so harmless? Of course, he didn't just stay there. He left the office with enough time to figure it out. In a sudden and even temperamental manner, he stormed out of the building toward Gringotts Tower without anyone stopping him, because nobody considered it crazy enough to do that. Harry, their friends exclaimed, seeing him so furious. What's wrong with you, Harry? Ron asked as he approached his friend, an action many other Gryffindor students didn't consider prudent. Hasakos has banned me from going out. Why? Hermione asked. I don't know. He didn't want to tell me, he said angrily, but I swear I'll find out tonight. Harry, do you think it's wise? Hermione asked. If Hasakos has forbidden you from going out, there must be a reason. You know how much he cares about you. After all, he's your godfather and loves you dearly. Yeah, already, he said angrily. Are you leaving? Ron asked. See, but Hasakos, I don't care. That very night, Harry, Ron, and Hermione put on their invisibility cloak and left the school. Once outside, they left the cloak in a safe place and transformed into animals. Afterward, they began exploring the area while playing. Behind them, still wearing the cloak, trailed the Muggle-Striders. For the first time, Harry understood what it felt like to wander through Hogwarts gardens on moonlit nights. The sight was truly remarkable. It wasn't often that one could witness a unicorn moving freely alongside a stag of magical power, accompanied by a rather domineering owl that would cleverly divert them whenever the animals headed toward places she didn't want to go. After a while, the deer headed toward the Forbidden Forest. This move apparently didn't sit well with either the unicorn or the owl, but they still followed him into the woods anyway. This must be Harry's first time out at night here, Remus whispered. He seems to be handling it pretty well. I know, James replied. The poor boy's been unlucky indeed. In November he couldn't leave because Professor Dumbledore wanted to talk to him, and in the following days Professor McGonagall kept a tight watch on him. Then came Professor Smith, who imposed punishments and made him fall ill repeatedly. What I don't get is why Professor Smith wouldn't let him leave, Lily said.
Ni idea.
Oh, they're off to the woods, Sirius exclaimed. Let's go then, they said and followed them into the forest. A few minutes later, they found him again in a clearing with a small pool of crystal-clear water. There they stopped to drink and play. Hermione transformed back into human form, took off her black cloak, and slipped into a Muggle tank top and shorts. She dashed over to join the stag and unicorn in their game, knowing she couldn't fly if she stayed as a cat. It was during those games that they heard a rustle through the bushes. The three of them dashed behind some shrubs, while the loiterers in nearby bushes remained equally still. After a moment, a short man entered the clearing, dressed in black mourning robes. From their hiding spot, the loiterers watched Hermione gasp for breath and saw resentment reflected in the faces of the stag and unicorn, especially in the stag's expression. A small puff occurred, and both boys reverted to their human forms. After shifting their expressions from rage and hatred to indifference, they stepped back into the open. What are you doing here? Harry asked. Ah, Harry, I knew you were here. The mortifier replied. You didn't answer my question. What are you doing here? I wanted to talk to you, Harry. Well, I don't want to talk to you. Out of my sight. Harry, listen to me. I came here to help you. I know how you helped me, Harry declared, casting a venomous glare at him. That was many years ago. He was so young back then, exclaimed the mortifag. How many years ago? He exclaimed angrily. "Do you think you did this to me years back?" he said, rolling up his left sleeve and showing a darkened scar. "Okay, me," the nervous Mortificus muttered, his silver hand brushing away the hair from his eyes. "Less than a year has passed since you did this to me. Now get out, Peter. Or should I call you Caligusano?" Harry said. From their hideout, the loiterers had to make a big effort to keep quiet about this last comment, yet they kept listening. "I'm risking my life on this," exclaimed Caligusano. "Go on then. I owe you a lifetime debt," he roared. "That's why I came to warn you. You're not safe here anymore. My master knows exactly where you are." Harry paused momentarily, silent as he weighed the information he had gathered. But once his composure returned, he responded, "I care about your debt to my life with me. I didn't save your life for you, but because I know my father wouldn't have wanted his best friends to become murderers over your fault. I thought that was clear enough. Instead of now, you should have considered helping us 14 years ago. Stop it. James and Lily were my friends. You traitors. They made you their secret allies, yet you betrayed them to Voldemort. You were the one who killed my parents, so don't even say they were your friends, little brat," Harry shouted. As Harry screamed, a golden light enveloped him while tremors rippled through the surroundings. The trees quivered violently as everyone sensed the immense energy surrounding the boy. Thunder roared in the distance, and downpour began to pour down with devastating force. Caligusano trembled at the power radiating from the teenager before him. Never had he witnessed such a massive surge of magical energy before, and now he finally understood why Voldemort wanted Harry dead. At that moment, Hossicos appeared. He rushed to embrace the boy while trying to calm him down, his eyes blazing with hatred as he stared at the Mortificus. "Get out of here, Peter, or I'll forget the promise I made to Harry," Sirius shouted. "I don't want to hurt you, Sirius," Peter said. "You have no idea how many times I've regretted that." "No, I don't know and I don't want to know. You handed them over to James and Lily, and you didn't care that Voldemort wanted to kill them. Now it's better for you to leave before he kills you." "No, he won't leave," Harry said. Despite the man's embrace, he raised an arm and pointed at Peter. A few seconds later, the mortifying figure collapsed unconscious on the ground. "He'll go straight to Azkaban," Harry added. "And this time he won't escape." With another swift motion of his hand, the Mortificus transformed into a rat and was confined in a glass jar with ventilation holes. After that, he spun around and embraced Sirius, tears streaming down his face. "There you are, calm down," his godfather said. "Calm down, Harry. I told you not to leave school. I begged you. I didn't want you to go through this. Did you know Voldemort?" "Yeah, that's why I came to the past, Harry, to keep an eye on you." After that, Sirius waved his wand toward the castle. Shortly after, Professor Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall appeared. At first, they seemed angry to see the three students there, but their expressions shifted to concern when they noticed Harry crying. "Sirius, what happened?" Dumbledore asked. "A deadly one, sir," Sirius replied. Harry and the boys noticed the temporary crack and came to investigate. They found him right here. "God bless you," exclaimed McGonagall. "Where's he?" "Here," Ron pointed out, gesturing at the rat. "A rat?" asked the two professors from the past. This torture machine was an unregistered animagus, which is why he managed to escape twice. Sirius explained. "You see, what are you going to do with him while Sirius? We'll keep him securely in that boat and deliver him right when we return." "Comprendo." "Dumbledore, does it matter if Harry sleeps in my room tonight? I think we'll have plenty to talk about." No, I don't care." Everyone started making their way to school, unaware that those who didn't need to know anything had already learned everything. The Wanderers still trailed behind them, still stunned. They felt they hadn't fully grasped it. From the conversations they'd heard, the Mortificus turned out to be none other than Peter, their friend and a member of the Wanderers, while Professor Smith was actually Sirius, another of them. If that was already too much, then there was Harry's story to deal with. In reality, it wasn't James' cousin but his son, and Harry's mother was Lily. Both had died because Peter betrayed them by handing them over to Voldemort. All of this was too hard to believe, so they needed to dig deeper and keep tracking Harry down. When Ron and Hermione were about to head toward Gringotts Tower, Hogwarts stopped them. He felt compelled to speak with them. So the four entered the man's office and waited for what was happening. I think you need a lot of explanations, Hasako said. Especially you, Harry. First and foremost, do you know why Voldemort killed your parents and why he wanted to kill you too, Harry? No, Professor Dumbledore told me he'd explain it to me once I was ready. Typical of him. Sirius smiled. Voldemort killed your parents and tried to kill you simply because Godric Gryffindor's blood runs through your veins. What? Harry, Ron and Hermione exclaimed. Yes, James is a descendant of Godric Gryffindor, and therefore you too, Hasako said, glancing at a photo of the Hogwarts Wanderers from his time that Peter wasn't pictured in. I can't even remember when I first heard about it. I think it was during my 5th year. As you know, Voldemort is the last descendant of Salazar Slytherin, and he harbored particular hatred toward Gryffindor members. But he would never have done anything had it not been for learning that one of Gringotts' descendants possessed immense power, perhaps even greater than his own. You can imagine the weight this carried. The man who had been battling death itself would eventually face someone capable of defeating him without a fight. So that's why he tried to kill me? That's why he just wanted to kill my father? Harry asked. Yes. At first, Voldemort didn't realize you'd defeat him. He only thought that if he killed your father and you, the bloodline of Godric Gryffindor would be extinguished, and the wizard or witch who would ultimately defeat him would never be born. But later, through that disgusting rat, he learned that the one he feared had already been born. He decided to kill it before it grew strong enough to defeat him. But Voldemort was wrong. He never anticipated that Lily, a Muggle-born witch, would foil his schemes. She sacrificed herself for me, Harry said absent-mindedly. Riddle claimed that Act was a potent ancient magic countermeasure. In truth, it is the most powerful. To die protecting someone you love embodies the most potent ancient magic imaginable. Voldemort, a heartless and merciless being. This made him forget the protective power that simple act once granted you. That's why when he tried to kill you, he failed, and the curse turned against him instead. Harry remained silent. The overwhelming amount of information left him feeling completely overwhelmed. He was even more overwhelmed than when he first learned he was a wizard, and all the events that had unfolded since. But how did Pettigrew know Harry was that wizard? Hasako's? Hermione asked. I knew you'd be the one to ask me. Do you know that I've come to understand what Remus meant when he said you were the one? Has there ever been a sorcerer smarter and more curious than this? The man said with a grin, causing Hermione to blush slightly and Ron to burst into laughter. The reason is simple. As you all know, Peter was Voldemort's spy, just as Snape was Dumbledore's, and you also know that even though we knew there was a traitor on our side, none of us ever suspected Peter. That's exactly why I ended up committing the error in changing his secret hiding place meant he always had a wealth of information to pass on to Voldemort. Part of this information included Harry's birth date. When Harry was born, both James and Dumbledore recognized the immense power within him. James shared this revelation with us friends, and you can imagine how quickly Peter passed the information to Voldemort. This led to Harry becoming seriously opposed to them. That's when we realized there was a traitor among us. Well, the rest is history. Harry remained silent for a moment longer, needing to properly process all the information. Something felt off about it. Meanwhile, inside the bottle, the rat had woken up and was restless in its cage, listening intently. Oh my, something's off. If I'm that powerful wizard, where's my power? I've never shown it off before.
Harry.
I don't think you fully realized what happened before. Hasako smiled. Not only did you restore his rodent form and imprison him in this glass tank, didn't you sense the power aura surrounding you? Didn't you notice the storm you unleashed? Harry shook his head in astonishment. Harry, your power was dormant, hidden within you, or at least it had been. You must have started waking up since your last birthday, and I can't deny that your magic skills are improved. That said, a good chunk of it woke up tonight when you got angry, but it's still asleep. And when did you even know Voldemort already knows where I am? We first grew suspicious around late November, then started preparing everything to send someone who could keep tabs on you. By mid-month, everything was ready. My mission was to watch over you and prevent you from leaving when Voldemort could attack. That's why I panicked when I found out you'd become Animagi and began setting traps to stop you from sneaking out with the Wanderers. Sorry, those times you got sick were also my doing. I must have imagined this. I rarely get sick. It's been so strange that I've fallen ill for 3 straight months. And it's always happened on a full moon. Ron and Hermione headed toward the tower, while the loiterers took advantage of the moment they opened the office door to slip out. It was sheer luck that just as Hermione opened it, Harry called them over, though they didn't stay to listen. They had to hurry if they wanted to beat Ron and Hermione to the door. They entered the common hall and settled into the armchairs when the portrait of the fat lady came alive, revealing 2 others who seemed somewhat surprised to find the loiterers seated there. "How's it going?" Lily asked innocently. "Good," Hermione replied, "until Hasakos caught us." "Did he catch you?" Sirius said, putting on an act of ignorance. We got a good scolding," Ron said. "Where's Harry?" asked James. "Hoikos had wanted to keep him tonight." Hermione replied, "I'm going to bed." "Lily, you coming?" "No. The storm that just passed has completely shaken me to my core." "So do we," said Remus. "Well, good night then," Ron said, and both he and Hermione went upstairs to their dormitories. After a moment, having made sure the entire tower was asleep, they exchanged glances, though neither seemed able to speak of what had transpired. In the end, it was Peter who finally broke the silence. "Can't believe it. All of that must be a lie. What do you expect me to say, Peter?" "But I wouldn't be so sure. Actually, everything fits together perfectly," Sirius asserted. "What fits in?" he asked. "Well, first off, those who were so familiar with the school that they discovered Remus so quickly, or figured out how to turn us into Animagi. They already knew it. We've been asking ourselves all semester what you did to deserve this treatment." "Honestly, that's exactly how it explains everything," said James. "That would explain the striking resemblance between Harry and you," said Remus. "Harry looks so much like you because he's your son, and Lily's too," he added, provoking a blush in response. "That means my parents need to know the truth, because otherwise they wouldn't have agreed it was my cousiness," James said. "And Dumbledore would have been sure of that too. Do you realize that with all the knowledge we have, we can change the future?" Lily asked. "We can make sure none of these things happen." "That's strange," Sirius said. "If we've learned all this, it means our future selves had to figure it out too. But instead of changing history, they didn't do anything about it. I find that odd. At least I won't let this happen, so why did my future self allow it?" Everyone fell silent for a moment, pondering why Sirius more precisely, the likable Professor Smith, had allowed all this to happen. It was clear he would have done anything to prevent it. Few realized at the time, but with that comment and question, Sirius had completely rewritten the story. "I think maybe when they leave, they'll cast a memory-erasing spell," Lily said. "That way, neither we nor anyone else will know who they are, and we can't change history no matter how painful it is. You mustn't forget that now James and I can actually make Harry not be born. Explaining something to someone from the past could lead to future events that might become extremely dangerous. What can we do?" he demanded. "Why won't I let you two just stop fighting?" Sirius shouted, his gaze locked on James and Lily. "We can always learn a shield spell if we cast it just before they administer the memory erasure. That way it won't work and we'll be able to remember everything. But I warn you, this spell is way above the level of Timos," Lily said. "How do you know him?" James asked. Professor Smith's exceptional kindness and understanding made everyone confident the exam wouldn't go wrong. And as expected, it went smoothly. The test required explaining everything they knew about Dementorsa, a notoriously challenging subject that the professor had meticulously documented, making it surprisingly manageable. When the trio found out, they were overjoyed. They knew Dementors inside out. Harry was the one who even knew how to defend himself against them. Of course, when it came time for the exam, they weren't exactly thrilled about it. Hermione Granger. They heard her being called Hasakos. The troublemakers had stayed to see how the exams were going. "Good luck, Hermione," Harry and Ron said. "Thanks," he said just before disappearing through the door. "I don't even know why we wish her luck." "She doesn't need it," Ron said. "Everyone knows the notes and materials from that cheap textbook." "Well, especially the part about the Dementors," Harry declared. What we don't get is why you three are taking the exam separately without the rest of the class. Not us. The other two stated. Maybe it'll make it easier for them. Sirius declared. The hardest one. Remus added. 10 minutes later, Professor Smith poked his head out of the door and grinned when he spotted the boys. You can all come in now that Hermione's done. Ron, it's your turn. The 7 curious souls entered. It was impossible to finish an exam like the one they had given everyone else in under 20 minutes. Some had even spent hours waiting. Once inside, they found Hermione looking extremely upset. This is outrageous, Hasakos. It's not even on par with Timos. He protested. Don't complain. Other wizards and witches your age have already mastered it. The man replied. Other wizards and witches out of the question. Harry's the only one who knows exactly what you asked me to do. What's going on? Ron asked. My exam was all about summoning a Patronus. He replied. Why, yeah. You've set the bar so high, Hermione. They've put us in this position. This is your test too, she said. What the heck? He exclaimed in horror. This has to be a joke. Not exactly, Ron. That's the whole point of your exam, said Hasakos. But why don't you give us the same thing everyone else gets? Because you three know more about the Dementors than anyone else, right? He replied. Now let's get started. Ron tested it for about 15 minutes until a silver cloud finally formed, taking on a very hazy shape that at first glance resembled a horse. Meanwhile, the loiterers watched with admiration. Not bad at all, Ron. You took a bit longer than Hermione, but that's perfectly fine, said Horcrux. Your turn now, Harry. The boy strode resolutely to the center of the classroom and pulled out his wand with determination. But before he could even speak, Hasakos stopped him. No, Harry, your test is to conjure a Patronus. Without a wand.
No wand. Yeah, no magic wand.
Harry, this is your exam and it requires effort. If I just ask you to do something you've mastered since your 3rd year, that won't work. But I've never tried it without a wand. I'm not going to make it work. You've got to do it. Remember our conversation, Harry, and recall all the simpler spells we've practiced together. But this isn't a simple spell. With just a wand, it's already at the level of a mage. You can do it from your 3rd year onward, Hasakos said with a simple tone. I learned this to defend myself. He grumbled. I don't care, Harry. This is your exam whether you like it or not. This is not fair. Actually, it's perfectly fair. Now that you've got your Patronus in place, you can take your time. There's no rush here. Harry sighed resignedly. The moment he had spoken without a wand, he knew he would have to do it no matter how much he complained. After all, he knew his Patronus well. He closed his eyes for a few moments, focusing as he had learned from him, while recalling a happy memory. In his mind, the Patronus spell began to resonate. When he felt fully prepared, he spoke the incantation aloud. Expecto Patronus, he declared, his hands stretched out at shoulder height. A golden light began to envelop his arm and gradually focused. 2 seconds later, a silver cloud started to rise from his hand, gathering and forming a distinct shape. A deer, a magnificent silver deer. Everyone in the classroom gazed at the noble creature with awe. Only Hermione had seen Harry's Patronus before, and she was equally amazed. The girl herself felt the same way. She'd only caught a glimpse of it last time and had been so upset that she'd barely noticed it. It's more beautiful than I ever imagined, Hermione declared. So much more. It's gorgeous, Harry, Lily exclaimed in admiration as the boys nodded in agreement. Harry smiled with a merry smile, just before collapsing into the nearest chair from exhaustion, as the Patronus vanished. At that moment he felt utterly drained. The Patronus was a draining wand spell. Performing it without the wand had left him utterly powerless. Great job, Harry. You did it perfectly, said Hasakos. If you can cast a Patronus without a wand, you'll be able to use any spell you learn. Since you've finished your exams, it's better for you to go rest and get some sleep. Yes, that's exactly what I'll do. I feel capable of sleeping through an entire year, Harry declared. Shortly after, the 8 of them made their way to the tower, with Harry's eyes gradually closing every few moments. The other 7 had to keep watch over him. They weren't surprised when he collapsed onto his bed and fell asleep almost instantly. To be honest, Ron and Hermione were also exhausted but could manage until bedtime. Harry didn't wake up for dinner, but he was lucky because Saturday came the next day. He got up on time and made it. "Good morning," he said as he descended to the common room the next morning. "Good morning, Sleeping Beauty." Sirius greeted him as he appeared. "You've been sleeping since yesterday afternoon. Time to eat soon. Is it that late?"
Yeah.
Sirius grinned, twirling his dagger in the game he was playing with Ron. Let me think," Harry said. "What time is it?" 12:30. "Why is it considered a bad move?" For that Ron grinned. "Checkmate. Oysters? Not a chance." Sirius snorted, as Harry and Ron burst into laughter. "How are you feeling?" Lily asked. As new. The rest of the day, they spent playing chess to see if anyone could beat the red-haired guy, but everyone lost miserably. The only one who did better was Harry. Having played against his friend so many times, he somehow improved regardless of whether he wanted to admit it or not, and he knew the young Weasleys' playing style inside out. Soon, when Harry took over, the matches began to generate great excitement. "Sorry, Harry. Checkmate," Ron said with a smile. "I knew it. There's no way I can beat you at chess." Harry sighed. "But he's improved a lot. I still remember our first game together. Don't even try to remind me. That wasn't a game. It was a brutal beating." "Hey, who's next?" Lily asked. "I'll be you," James declared. "You won't beat me this time." Harry smiled at the comment but stood up to give him his seat. The game began, and it was clear who would win. Ron. From the start, he took the lead and started munching on a bunch of cookies. But this time, Harry wasn't paying attention. Felt restless. Something inside him telling him things were going badly, terribly bad. He moved toward the window and started staring out the window, unconsciously touching his scar. Hermione noticed and became worried. "Harry, what's going on?" "Something's wrong, Hermione, but I still don't know what it is. You look a bit pale." "It's nothing." Both of them kept staring out the window, as if they knew the disturbance would appear down there. Meanwhile, Ron's game continued on as usual, with no one paying attention to them. "Oh!" Suddenly, Harry felt an excruciating pain. The scar was burning like fire. "Harry!" Hermione cried out in panic. Ron, James, and the other trudges turned to hear Hermione's cry, only to see the scene they just described. As the group exchanged puzzled glances, Ron's face turned deathly pale. "James, you're abandoning us," Ron said as he stood up and ran toward Harry. "Harry, what's going on? What do you imagine?" He replied, But he can't be here, right? I mean, this was supposed to be a safe place where you wouldn't find him here." "You see, there's no safe place as long as Lord Voldemort is free in the world," he replied. "What are you going to do?" Hermione asked. "Just like a year ago, but this time, I won't run away." "Harry, you can't do that," Ron said. "It's way too dangerous." "Ron, do you know what?" I replied indifferently. "I'm done with this cat and mouse game. I'm not running from him again." In that way, the boy turned around and headed toward where his instinct told him he would find Voldemort. Meanwhile, his friends watched him leave in fear, and with just one glance, they knew it was their duty. They followed their friend with a mere 2-second delay, while the loiterers trailed behind. Midway through their journey, they encountered Hossicos. "Ron, Hermione, what's going on?" "He's here," and Harry went to fetch him, Ron said without even pausing. "What? Why didn't you stop him?" he gasped. "Honestly," Hermione asked, "do you think it would have made any difference?" "We tried to convince him," she continued, "but he just wouldn't listen." They said nothing more. When they emerged into the gardens, they found themselves facing what they had tried to avoid. Lord Voldemort stood with his Death Eaters before Harry, who glared at them defiantly. "Measurement of forces. 14 measurement of forces." They said nothing more. When they emerged into the gardens, they found themselves facing what they had tried to avoid. Lord Voldemort stood with his Death Eaters before Harry, who glared at them defiantly. With deliberate slowness, Ron and Hermione had cleared the loiterers to leave before slipping behind Harry, just as the boy's godfather had done, ready to lend a hand however small it might be for their friend. "Oh my God, we're back, Potter," Voldemort said, his bloodshot eyes locked on the boy. That seems like it. The boy agreed. Though I hope this is the last time. Oh, I'm sure you're waiting for it too, Potter. In fact, I hope this is the last time. No more than I. See how this time you've brought more buddies along. What's up with that? Are you scared he'll do the same to you as he did to your last buddy? That fool got exactly what he deserved. Don't you dare call him that. Harry shouted, his voice growing as tense as when he'd snapped at Calagasano. A golden aura began to envelop him as the ground started trembling. Lightning flashed and thunder roared across the area as rain began pouring down. This triggered several teachers to emerge and investigate the mysterious magic permeating the air, watching as the Mortifagos surrounded 3 of their students and 1 of their teachers. Many offered to help them, but Dumbledore stopped them from doing so, while Voldemort watched the boy with displeasure and even concern. It seems the boy's power has awakened, my lord, said one of the Mortifagos. I already know that, fool. I have eyes. But my lord, what are we going to do? I was just about to kill the boy before he activated his true power. Oh, Voldemort laughed. True, his power has awakened, but not fully. I think I'll have some fun. He turned to Harry again. Pretty cool, Potter. A show worthy of watching. A shame you can't do it again forever. You can't be saying you're the one who won't see it again.
No, kid, no.
Because today you're gonna die in one damn good day. That'll have to be seen for himself. Voldemort raised his wand and cast the Crucio curse. But just before he could strike, the boy deftly created a protective shield with a wave of his hand. The scene repeated itself repeatedly, and each time when the Dark Lord's attack was about to hit Harry, he would summon a shield to block it. It soon became clear that Voldemort was growing weary, while Harry remained as unshaken as when the battle began. What's wrong, Potter? Why aren't you attacking? Are you scared? Voldemort said, trying to bite him. I'm not fooling you, Voldemort. You know it as well as I do.
No, Potter.
You're scared, you're afraid of me. You're using a shield because you're afraid to face me directly. You're just a coward, just like your parents were. Voldemort watched Harry's reaction, but contrary to expectations, the boy remained completely unperturbed. Instead, he appeared remarkably calm. The only one who reacted was Sirius. Had Ron and Hermione not restrained him, he would have charged straight at him. They begged for mercy, Potter. They pleaded to let them live. It was incredibly rewarding to kill them while they begged for their lives, he added. A profound silence fell over the room as everyone froze at the revelation. Only Sirius seemed to react, demanding to give Voldemort a good beating for his outrageous remark. He kept harping on to Harry that it was complete nonsense, barely restrained by Ron and Hermione's arm. Don't try to fool me, Voldemort. This trick won't work on you, and you know it better than I do. Neither my father nor my mother begged for their lives. They did die, but you killed them both in the process. My father died protecting my mother and me, while she died protecting me. You know exactly what defeated you that time. That's exactly why. Calla, what's wrong, Voldemort? Does it hurt to hear this? Does it sting to remember that my ordinary Muggle mother was the one who made you nothing more than a shadow for over 13 years? Shut up, Voldemort roared. Imperious. This time, Harry didn't do anything to avoid the curse. Instead, he even smiled. This gave him a full advantage, and Voldemort grinned triumphantly. You'll beg for your life, he said, glancing at Harry. I think, Voldemort, you forgot a small detail. Harry said calmly as everyone gasped in surprise, except Ron and Hermione. The Imperius curse doesn't affect me. I think you understood last year when, if I remember correctly, you tried the same thing today. If there was any chance Voldemort could pale further with his porcelain skin, it became evident in that moment. Things weren't going well for him, and he knew it. He was fully aware what would happen if that boy awakened his power. He knew it, but still found the duel with the boy rather amusing. Now at a higher level, I could finally see how terrible that idea had been. It would have been way easier if I could have killed him last year after recovering his body and powers, but he managed to escape just in time. It would have been even easier if I'd eliminated him when he was at his uncle's house. But that old madman showed up with a bunch of well-trained wizards and witches, and I couldn't pull it off. And if all that had failed as it did, I could always kill him through treachery. Though not the most honorable method, it was effective enough. But I'd chosen to fight him in a duel, and now not only couldn't I kill him through betrayal, but it was becoming clear that I was at a disadvantage. Avada Kedavra! Voldemort shouted as he pointed at Harry, but the boy simply raised his shield again, and the curse did nothing to harm him. What are you planning now, Voldemort? What else have you schemed up? Harry asked in a frosty voice. Maybe kill my godfather or take out my friends. Voldemort surveyed his surroundings. Honestly, killing another person, someone who cherished the boy's affection, wasn't such a bad idea. This way, their death would sting him and lower his guard. But what if instead of that, he made the boy furious and ultimately destroyed him? No, he had to make sure after that attack he couldn't do anything. But how? The solution came to him when he saw the people from the past and smiled. Avada Kedavra, he declared, gesturing at James. Everything happened in a flash. The curse shot toward the boy like a breath of air, and no one seemed able to stop it. What made it worse was that he appeared to be stuck to the ground, completely immobilized. Protectio Scutum, Harry shouted, gesturing at the entire group of past members while focusing his gaze on James. Just seconds before the curse was about to strike the boy, a shield far stronger than the previous ones appeared and protected him. After confirming they were safe, Harry turned toward the enraged Voldemort, intensifying the fury of the elements even further. That was a low blow, Voldemort. Maybe, but you can't deny it was a good way to defeat you, Voldemort said calmly, though he was genuinely terrified inside. If I'd killed your father back then, you wouldn't have been born, you couldn't have defeated me, and I'd have simply vanished here. If you'd reacted even 2 or 3 seconds later, you wouldn't have existed at all. That's one I'm not letting slip by, he said angrily. Harry raised his hand and pointed at Lord Voldemort and his followers. To the horror of the Dark Lord and his minions, they couldn't move. With a deep, resonant voice, he roared, Magis Mortit. When those words were spoken, a tremendous burst of pure white light erupted. Voldemort and his followers temporarily vanished from view as nothing could be seen, but within seconds they reappeared in unison. Panic whispers rose among the teachers and the loiterers, while the Morsakers let out triumphant shouts of victory. I don't think it turned out the way you expected, Potter, Voldemort said. What do you mean? You're going to die right now. Avada Kedavra. But nothing happened. He tried it with another wand, and again nothing. Voldemort turned paler than death itself, while his followers had experienced something similar. Damn you, you little brat. You didn't dare to, said one of the Mortifag. Watch your step, Mr. Malfoy. I don't like to hurt someone who can't defend themselves. Remember, he's just a regular muggle after all. Why did you let us become muggles instead of killing each other? Voldemort demanded. Easy, Voldemort. I'm not a killer. Leave this place, you'll go where you belong. Azkaban, Harry said. He made a slight gesture with his hand, and Voldemort, along with his Morsakers, vanished. If they had looked into the Chamber of Horcruxes, they would have seen that a certain rat had also left with them. After this, the fury engulfing Harry gradually dissipated, and the power he had manifested returned to his body. Harry! Hasakos shouted as he dashed to help his adopted son when he saw him stumble. Harry, are you okay? Yeah, don't worry, I'm just tired, he said as his eyes closed. Rest, Harry said, pushing him towards sleep with these words. When Harry closed his eyes completely asleep, Hufflepuff took him into her arms. After doing so, she turned around and headed toward the castle, followed by worried Ron and Hermione, along with the still stunned teachers and curious onlookers. Madame Pomfrey, Hasakos said, could you kindly take a look at Harry? Well, if you're so kind as to accompany me, said the stunned nurse. Everyone headed to the infirmary, some out of concern, others needing reassurance. But when they arrived, the place was nearly full to capacity. This infuriated Mrs. Pomfrey, who kicked everyone out except James, who she wanted to check on before leaving. While this move wasn't exactly a crowd pleaser, they had no choice but to wait until the nurse finally cleared the way. How are you? Asked Hasakos. Well, that's fine, Mrs. Pomfrey said. He's just completely drained. Which is perfectly normal after all he's been through. Nothing can't be fixed with some rest, or more accurately, plenty of rest. I'd suggest he stay here until the course ends. And James? Why don't we dance? He said, as if it were a matter of course. Though I know he'd be dead now if not for Harry. He's perfectly fine. Still, I want him to stay here until tomorrow. Well, I think we deserve some explanations, Dumbledore said. Well, Director Hossakos said. I suppose I'll have to start from the beginning. It's not fair that only you and Professor McGonagall know the truth. First of all, as you, Harry, Ron, Hermione, and I being from the future, specifically 22 years ahead, might already know, there were faint gasps from the teachers. And my real name is Sirius Black, someone said, so I'm that kid over there. More gasps followed. Harry? He's actually James's son, not your cousin, and Lily is his mother. The teachers couldn't react anymore. The reason we're in this time, as you've already seen after what you've witnessed, it was to protect Harry from Lord Voldemort, who has been trying to kill him since his birth. That's what Minerva and I knew, Dumbledore said. How about you explain the missing part now? Well, Director, as you've seen, Harry isn't your average boy. Not just because of his powers. He's always been exceptionally mature and responsible for others, far more than any boy his age. But it's his status as the heir to Godric Gryffindor that made him Voldemort's prime target. The prophecy, said McGonagall. Yes, the old prophecy of Godric Gryffindor that one of his descendants would be far more powerful than the average, even more powerful than himself. When Voldemort learned of it, he thought it wasn't a good idea to let the remaining descendants live. But this was confirmed when his spy informed him that Harry was the wizard. So, he took advantage of our trust in his spy, and on Halloween Day, when Harry was only 1 year old, he went to Godric's Hollow and attacked them. James and Lily perished at Voldemort's hands while protecting their family, but Harry survived. When the killing curse struck, Harry deflected it and shot back at Voldemort, sustaining only a lightning-shaped gash on his forehead, which left a scar on him. Voldemort, however, didn't fare as well and was reduced to a shadow. But if it turned into nothing, how could we have seen it just a moment ago? Professor Flitwick asked. Ever since Harry defeated him, he's been searching for a way to return, and he finally succeeded a year ago. During the summer, he attacked Harry's house, leaving us with no other choice but this. We needed time for his powers to awaken. We couldn't predict when, only that it would happen after his 15th birthday. Sirius concluded. What are you going to do now? Asked Professor Dumbledore. We'll wait until the course ends and return to our time. I hope you understand that before we leave, we should give you a memory-erasing charm. If not, our future might change. Harry could cease to exist altogether. He thought to himself, Dumbledore said. Changing a small detail in the past could lead to disastrous consequences in the future. Harry didn't wake up for 3 days straight, and even when he finally did, he was barely clinging to his consciousness. Meanwhile, Ron and Hermione kept their eyes glued to him, terrified of how their friend would react to the battle against Voldemort. What if those deathly fears about Cedric came back? Or the memories of his parents' deaths? What if he became even more withdrawn and withdrawn? Thankfully, none of that ever happened. In truth, Harry felt almost as if he'd been relieved of a huge burden and was in much higher spirits. It had been almost 2 days since she awoke when the visitors she'd been waiting for since the very beginning arrived. The Wanderers. Forward, Harry said when they knocked on the door while he absent-mindedly stroked Sale's hand, which had grown to an adult-sized cat's size. Hello, Harry, can we? James asked as he leaned forward, while the others remained behind him. Hello, come on in, he said cheerfully. How are you? Lily asked once inside. Much more rested, he smiled, but as the boys looked at him suspiciously, he added, Don't stare at me like that. I'm fine. Guess you want a lot of explanations. Actually, just one. Remus said. What? How the hell did Sirius end up being a teacher? James, Lily, Remus, and Peter asked in unison. Harry stared at them in surprise for a moment before breaking into uncontrollable laughter he couldn't control. The onlookers watched in bewilderment, while Sirius looked both shocked and offended. Forgive me, but that was the last question I expected, Harry said with a laugh. I'm sorry, he said again calmly. Well, Sirius hasn't finished being a teacher yet, at least for now. I don't know if he'll get the bug after these months. The one who's actually finished being a teacher is you, Remus. Me? The man said. Yes, you. You were or will be my dark arts defense professor during my 3rd year. Seriously? Seriously, that's the best we've ever had. If Snape kept his mouth shut, you'd been the first to last over a year. Wait, is Snape a teacher too? They all exclaimed in unison. Oh no, that's my bad luck, yes, Harry said. He's my potions teacher. You're pathetic, James exclaimed in horror. At that moment, they knocked on the ward nurse's door. When it opened, Ron and Hermione's heads appeared, both beaming with smiles. The smiles Harry recognized as knowing each other intimately. Those two knew something he didn't. How absurd of him to think he was such a fool. Hello, Harry, Hermione said. What's going on? He asked, passing by. Nothing, Ron said, but it was obvious he was lying right away. You're hiding something from me. Oh, Harry, when did we start hiding something from you? Hermione said. You'd better keep quiet. I could tell you a few things. Harry said, which made Hermione look slightly nervous. What's going on? Actually, nothing, Ron said. Just that you have a visitor. Visit? Hossicos? No. Then, the door swung open again, revealing a horde of crimson heads. 8 to be precise, the Weasleys. As soon as when Weasley saw Harry, he rushed to embrace him. Oh, Harry! Harry! He said as he hugged him. Mrs. Weasley, can't breathe, Harry managed to say. Molly, darling, if you don't let go, you'll suffocate yourself. Mr. Weasley said. Oh, Harry, my goodness. I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. Hey, Harry, exclaimed the twins. How's the prank going? Did they do well? Fred. George. Mrs. Weasley snapped. From a fable. Harry chuckled. We still get a laugh every time we remember Snape and the transmutation spray. What did it turn into? George asked anxiously. In a goat. Ron laughed. He ate his own potion notes. Everyone started laughing except Mrs. Weasley, who looked visibly upset. Oh, come on, Mom. Snape isn't even our teacher yet. Let us get back at him for all the times he's punished us. Ron said. Oh, that's good, he finally said. Everyone in the room burst into laughter, including Mrs. Weasley. At that moment, Harry caught sight of a pair of blue eyes and everyone started exchanging knowing smiles, except for the loiterers who were completely clueless. 2 seconds later, these people were shoved out of the infirmary as someone carried Sale away. What's going on? They asked once outside. Those two need to be alone, Hermione replied. Who are you? Asked James. It's my sister Ginny and Harry's girlfriend, Ron declared. Hey, girlfriend? We didn't even know you had a girlfriend. They started coming out in July around mid-year. It was super awkward when Percy caught them kissing. Fred laughed. And guess who it had to be? Percy. Why? Lily asked. Back when Ginny was in 1st grade, she once caught Percy kissing his girlfriend Penelope in an empty classroom. Percy almost begged her not to tell anyone. George laughed. Of course these two couldn't even ask for it. We were the ones chasing after Percy. Yes, and you were the ones who made sure to let the whole family know about it. Percy said angrily. None of them, Professor Lupin and Hossicos, still don't know. They weren't there at the time. Fred said with a wicked grin, adding, how about we spill the beans now? You'd never guess, Mrs. Weasley exclaimed. They'll tell you when they think it's time. The Weasleys stayed behind until the school year ended, as they were all planning to return together. Just as Sirius had warned before leaving shortly after the banquet, all adult wizards along with Harry managed to cast the memory-erasing spell. However, they were given the exam results from Timos beforehand. The three pulled off remarkably well. Hermione scored 17 MHB, Harry 16, and Ron 14. It was evident that Snape wasn't the potions professor since all three had enrolled. So, when the banquet ended and the spells were cast, the rings on everyone's fingers serving as temporal transmitters began to glow. Gradually, all returned to their original timelines, where the entire school awaited them. Welcome, they all shouted as soon as they appeared. The news that Voldemort had vanished spread like wildfire, and everyone was overjoyed and grateful. Finally, it was all over. What puzzled everyone was that no one seemed to fear Sirius, in the contrary. They treated him with great respect. That was strange enough, but the first warning came from Hermione, who was the first to notice it. Harry, she whispered, startled and shocked. That scar. Your own scar. What's wrong with you? He's not here. What? That was the collective gasp of everyone. Harry pressed his hand to his forehead and was horrified to find the scar wasn't there. But if the scar wasn't there, that meant Voldemort hadn't made it, and if he hadn't made it, Harry? He heard, as two arms wrapped around him. When she turned around, she met eyes as green as her own, a fiery red-haired woman of 37 or 38. It was her mother, and her father stood right beside her. Never underestimate the Wanderers, Harry, Lily whispered. We'll find a way to keep you from erasing our memories. When the time comes, we won't trust Peter. We'll change now that you've got parents, you've got a lot of time to catch up on your story, darling. Harry's eyes brimmed with tears as he embraced his mother and then his father. Unbeknownst to him, he had rewritten history for the better. Voldemort was gone, Sirius was free, and most importantly, his parents were still alive. Now he could truly say he was starting a new chapter of life. Finishing. Well, it looks like this won't be my last author's note, tongue sticking out. How did you guys like the story? Hope you enjoyed it. As I said, I've been in a real rush to finish the remaining chapters. @_ Curry doesn't even know where he's from in his own rush. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for all the reviews you've left, and those who took the time to leave them after I finalized this chapter. 72 reviews. Wow! You have no idea how much this has made me excited. It's really giving me extra motivation to try writing the crossover and other Harry Potter stories as quickly as possible. Thanks a million for putting up with this crazy situation. We'll see you in A Witch at Hogwarts. Kiss to all, Curry.